The Lesser and Dark Demon Realms junction was a treacherous terrain crisscrossed by mountains and forests. The strength of the demons inside was extremely strong due to the Lesser and Dark Demon Realms' proximity. Ayaka sensed 5 powerful ki ahead, each one above Frisia. 21 million, 23.1 million, 23.21 million. Ayaka's eyes flashed with fine light and a bland smile hanging at the corners of her mouth. There are actually 5 powerful ki gathered together. It looks like they are still on good terms with each other. Soon, she came to understand. After all, the proximity to the Dark Demon Realm inevitably appears powerful, and united together, the survival rate would be high. Suddenly accelerated, a pale golden jet of ki came out, leaving a blurred residue in the air. The Bartle brothers were the ones who emitted the 5 ki. As demons, they grew from weak to strong, understood the demon realm's treacherous nature better, and never separated to act alone after they grew up. The Bartle boss looked slightly changed. He looked up to the sky, and soon the other brothers also sensed something. One after another, they raised their heads, so strong, the strength of the visitor is similar to senior brother. The Bartle brothers looked at each other, cautiously ready for battle. The hostile aura of the body and the volatile energy fluctuations emanated out, and the 5 seemed to be clad in thick armor, glittering light. Thump! Ayaka slowly landed down, 1 foot on the ground, and a pair of bright eyes swept across the 5 brothers. This aura, these 5 people in front of me in the demon realm think also occupy a place, and they fight them can fly to accumulate experience. A trace of joy flashed between his eyebrows. Ayaka thought excitedly. Who are you? This is the territory of our battle brothers, please leave immediately. The boss shouted sternly, and the other brothers stared intently. They would strike if Ayaka made the slightest move. Well, I don't mean any harm, I just came here to find someone to compete with. You guys are very strong, if you don't mind, please fight me. Ayaka said with a light smile. The Bartle brothers froze. Did the opponent really just want to compete? The brothers looked at each other. They needed to be careful in everything they did. Ayaka did not bother them, quietly waiting. That girl seemed to mean that she really only came for the competition. Well, her strength is about the same as Big Brother. The real fight will not be our opponent, we can have 5 people. Even if we fight, we are not that easy to defeat. After some deliberation, the Bartle boss stepped forward. His purple eyes looked at Ayaka and said in a medium voice, Lady, we agree to fight with you. To not destroy the surrounding environment, we need to change to a remote place. As the leader of the land, the Bartle brothers valued their territory very much. Of course. Ayaka smiled and nodded. She was surprised to find that although these 5 so-called Bartle brothers were demons, they were not bad-tempered and seemed to be very simple. Seeing Ayaka agreed, the Bartle brothers flew up in the air, speeding towards the remote and open areas. Ayaka followed immediately. In a few minutes flew out hundreds of kilometers. The Bartle brothers looked down and pointed to a withered yellow land and said, Let's land here. Ayaka landed in style, her soulful eyes twirling, which one of you will go first? I'll go first. The sturdy man who was the third in the line of the Bartle brothers stepped forward. His huge body of 2.5 meters tall stood in front of Ayaka with a sense of oppression. The height difference created a feeling of a big man bullying a small girl. Ayaka a narrowing of the eyes, and her dark blue eyes flashing. A shallow smile then appeared on the edge of her mouth. 22.34 million power level, very good. After entering the demon realm has not fought with people on 20 million power level, let me move around properly. The previous battles on the periphery of the demon realm had made Ayaka unmotivated. Although a few fights with her bare hands had increased her strength, the magnitude was not too great. But finally, this time when she meets her opponent, she felt energized. Woo! Strong battle intent gushed out. The battle intent has a sense of invisibility, but the Battle Brothers didn't dare to ignore it easily. The pale golden aura together with the surroundings, like flames burning, like a huge wave rolling. The two sides stood shaking. Their eyes were like eagles staring at each other, and the majestic and vast aura spread out. In a moment, the ground began to shake, and the wind tumbled up. Small trees and debris were twisted as if by a huge force, they flew up from the ground. Click, trees uprooted, and debris together in midair. The sky was suddenly enveloped by high-power energy, looking extraordinarily gloomy. The powerful pressure covered the sky and swept away. The air was distorted like a lens, blocking the purple moonlight in the air. Ha! Bartle Third Elder shouted, coldly looking at Ayaka. His body suddenly moved quickly, and the windswept the attack came immediately. Ayaka's eyes quickly caught the opponent's movement. Between lightning and thunder, she swung her palm out, accurately catching Bartle Third Elder's attack. Bartle Third Elder sneered, and with a turn of the fist wind, he swung his hand and attacked Ayaka's abdomen with great speed. It's not that easy. Ayaka coldly laughed and dodged sideways, instantly rendering Bartle Third Elder's attack useless. Then immediately after the counterattack, snapping, the hands disowned each other, instantly exchanged countless times, each punch and palm were the best efforts. Ayaka's eyes flashed brightly. The lightning flashed in both hands and began to shift from defense to offense. The silvery white lightning was like an angry thunder dragon, snaking towards his opponent. Bartle Third Elder was not willing to show weakness. He was covered with hostility and demonic power, and the strong demonic power formed a thick armor on his body. The thunder dragon and the armor hit each other straight on with a deafeningly loud sound. Caw caw caw. Thunder dragon disappeared after a blinding flash of bright light as if it had penetrated something, while the armor made of hostile ki gathered on Bartle Third Elder also shattered and slid off like glass. As soon as they met, a violent wave attacked the two, and both sides could not help but retreat hundreds of meters. Bartle Third Elder grinned. The attack of the Thunder Dragon just now put him under considerable pressure. The skin on his chest seemed to be burnt and emitted an unpleasant smell, and a tingling sensation came from his chest. What an intense attack! Bartle Third Elder's heart throbbed, and a drop of cold sweat unknowingly emerged from his head. Ayaka's body slid, then leaped onto a rocky mound, her eyes gazing. Demons' bodies are really strong, and that's just the beginning. It was apparent that both sides did not exert their full strength. They were just feeling each other out earlier. Having a rough idea of her opponent's strength, Ayaka was ready to start attacking hard. She quietly used the Heavenly Fist. Her power began to rise, and a huge aura emerged. Like the Kaioken, the Heavenly Fist would have a discounted boost for high power level. However, it was still possible to use a high multiplier and boost it to twice its actual strength. The sky began to shake subtly under the power, and the clouds were cleared away. Ayaka opened her dark blue pupils and gazed deeply at Bartle Third Elder. What is this uneasy feeling? Being watched by the bizarre pupil color, the elder brother felt surprised, as if his actions were being seen through. Swish! The girl disappeared, and Bartle Third Elder's heart shuddered, and his keen sense of touch searched sharply. However, no matter how carefully he perceived, he could not find his opponent's trace. Without being able to find the opponent's figure, Bartle Third Elder unleashed his whole power. He armed himself with his power and wrapped himself up tightly, but the throbbing in his heart became stronger and stronger. Old Three's demonic armor. This is Old Three's strongest defensive move, so far no one has ever breached. The Bartle brothers smiled lightly as they watched the battle. However, they were stunned in their hearts. The Bartle Third Elder's performance seemed to be completely suppressed to a defensive part. Demonic armor? Then let me give it a good try. The young girl's voice came, and the Bartle brothers who stood watching from afar were momentarily speechless. That girl's strength must exceed Old Three by quite a bit. Old Three is definitely not her opponent. The Bartle boss's gaze flashed, and his voice was grave. The second nodded in amazement. I wonder where she came from, such a powerful person we have not heard of at all. See, it looks like she's about to use her full power. The brothers smiled, and their eyes focused on the elder in the center of the field. Ayaka's figure appeared above Bartle third elder, looking down at her opponent, who was covered in demonic power. She took a breath. The demonic armor looks incredibly powerful with unparalleled defense. It tightly wraps around the whole body. Now, let me try to see if I can break it. Take it, sword wave. The light blue ki wave appeared spiraling and attacked straight towards the opponent. Seeing Ayaka's attack, Bartle boss eyes glazed over, and he sighed. Third brother is going to lose. Why do you say that? Is that person so strong that he can break through third brother's armor? The brothers said in disbelief. Look at the position of that person's attack. The boss pointed to the two people in the battle. That girl attacked from a high altitude, targeting exactly the top of third brother's head. The demonic armor has unparalleled defense, but it just so happens that the top of the head is the place with the weakest defense. The light blue spiral ki wave swooped down and accurately hit the demonic armor right above. The sword slamming ki wave and the demonic armor rubbed together fiercely, emitting an ear-piercing squeaking sound as both sides kept supplying energy. Drink. With a flash of light in his eyes, the output of the ki power wave in his hands suddenly increased, and two powerful sword lights twisted up and swung down like a broken bamboo. Bang! Demonic armor shattered with a bang, like a falling meteor emitting a splendid luster. The moment the armor shattered, Ayaka's body moved directly in front of Bartle third brother. She leaned down and lowered her body, and a kick with great explosive power was unleashed, hitting Bartle third brother solidly. A faint straight line extended out from where Bartle third brother stood, and his body shot like a cannonball, flying through the air for a distance and then hitting the ground, sliding for hundreds of meters and then sinking deep into the rock layer. The smoke and gravel fell. The long impact crater was still smoking as Ayaka fell to the side, knowing that her attack just now had not been able to rout her opponent. The ground and rocks crumbled apart, and a large, stocky man yelled as he came straight up from the ground. His body was flying high in the air with a somewhat lopsided look. Humph, the battle continues. Upon seeing his lively appearance, Ayaka's body immediately flashed between the sky and the ground, followed by coming into the air and launching another attack. Rumbling. A huge ringing and thundering sound were incessant, and bright lights of various colors rose up from the earth and shone throughout the sky. After nearly half an hour of fighting, Ayaka's ki had been consumed more than half. Thanks to the timely replenishment of the Kaioken and the tricky use of the move, she acted with almost no excess waste, all the power used in the ki attacks, while Bartle third brother was much worse. Although the overall reserves were higher than Ayaka's a large part, it was fearful that others did not know that he had more energy during the battle, the same as the thug. He was recklessly squandering, and now he was on the verge of depletion. Bang! 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 Lightning-fast attacks continued to stagger. Ayaka had become more and more courageous, the blood excitement stimulated the nerves. The body of Saiyan blood boiling up. Ha 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 ha, again. Dancing her body in the middle of the giant whistling wind, she moved quickly and agilely. Phew, I can't, where is this crazy person from? I can't take it anymore. Bartle third brother was already panting. His body was so sore that he could hardly move anymore, and every movement gave him an excruciating sensation. Stop! I admit defeat. The third brother shouted as he raised his hands. He then fell to the ground exhausted, panting violently. Concede defeat? Ayaka appeared to walk to the side of Bartle third brother, looking at the exhausted big man. She sighed and shook her head. You look quite sturdy though. Bartle boss' expression was ashamed like a dried-up chrysanthemum, ashamed to face the world upon hearing this. Ayaka walked towards the battle brothers, pointing at the panting man lying on the ground. He has already admitted defeat, which one of you will go next? The Bartle brothers looked at each other, and the second laughed loudly. I didn't expect the third to lose so quickly, let me learn your skills next. Ayaka nodded her head. She could see that the strong man in front of her was quite a bit stronger than the one just now, but it wasn't too far off, so Ayaka had the confidence to defeat her opponent. Every battle gave her valuable experience. Especially high-intensity, evenly matched battles that consumed the ki in her body, sharpened her body's will, and every time she recovered, she was able to make considerable progress. The battle she had just fought made her feel a lot deeper inside. Then it begins. Watching her opponent cautiously, Ayaka carefully used her ki to sense. Whoosh! Both of them moved at high speed simultaneously, but neither of them moved sideways as if they understood each other. Instead, they did their best to launch a straight-line attack towards their opponent. Crackling. The sky echoed with the sound of violent impact and explosion. The two people had used their ability, and the battle was inseparable for a while. What a formidable opponent. Bartle Boss muttered, just one battle, but I feel that her moves have been enhanced so much. I'm afraid that even I'm not an opponent at this rate. Big brother, the girl. The brothers leaned over with slightly hesitant voices. It seemed that they could see the difference in Ayaka. Such frightening qualifications. I can't believe she can break through her limits in battle. What race is she? Bartle Boss' face was pensive, then imperceptibly shook his head. It's impossible to see through, what a strange fellow. Seeing that the second was about to be defeated as well, the Bartle Boss shouted, Stop, you are no match, I will do it next. At this moment, he couldn't let the second fight for her anymore. The Bartle Boss decided to go on the field immediately and defeat her directly. The second's figure flickered and landed on the ground with a pale face. Big brother, you go next. After 2 consecutive high-intensity battles, Ayaka's ki had been consumed a lot. Her face was covered with crystal sweat, but these 2 battles made her very excited. Her whole body's senses seemed to be opened, especially the intense throbbing that originated from her bloodline. The feeling of relief and drenching pervaded her heart as if she was able to break through the ground with some more stimulation. Ayaka laughed happily, Come on, let's have a fight. The Bartle Boss nodded gravely, the body surging solid breath emitted. The Bartle Boss was really different. Once the ki unfolded, the battlefield that had experienced 2 battles immediately issued a trembling mournful cry under the huge breath. Sure enough, your strength is much stronger than theirs, so that's interesting. Ayaka grinned and said with unusual excitement. Your strength is remarkable, but you have already consumed a lot of ki. It's not easy to defeat me. The Bartle Boss said calmly and coolly. Oh, whether I can defeat or not, I won't know until I try. Ayaka said coldly. Just as the words left her mouth, she launched a preemptive attack. Her body moved as agilely as a swimming snake, and the distance between them shortened dramatically. The Bartle Boss smiled nervously, and his dark eyes flashed with a brilliant light. He steeply braced himself on the ground with both feet and yanked Ayaka's arm, and then he lashed out. Boom! The ground sank at once, and Ayaka's body flew through the air as fast as a kite with a broken string. Ha! Ayaka shouted, opened his arms to fix himself in the air. Just then, Bartle's attack had already arrived, wrapped in a huge force of a quick kick over. In a panic, Ayaka ducked down. The force of the powerful kick grazed the waist and swept through, hitting the ground from high to low. Rumble. The ground rose a huge mushroom cloud and a huge explosion accompanied by shock waves to the face. The two did not care about these external factors, continued to attack. Bang! 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 The ground shook violently again. The underground rocks cracked open, sand and stone debris filled the sky, and instantly even the sky was obscured. Quick battle. Knowing that there was little ki left in the body, Ayaka's face was grave. The strength of the Bartle boss was much stronger than imagined. Take the last move. Ayaka gathered the whole body strength, shouted, fingers raised high. Fingertips peanut-sized ball of qigong flickered a few times, steeply into the diameter of tens of meters of blue energy bomb. Let's try the death ball I learned from Cooler. Ayaka simulated the death ball attack method and struck down a blue energy bullet tens of meters in size vertically from her fingertips. Death ball. The blue death ball fell from high in the air, an air friction squeaking sound. The death ball cut through the clouds, and the water vapor in the clouds was instantly vaporized. This was a move that Ayaka tried his best to make, and it was a matter of victory or defeat. What a terrifying move. The Bartle boss opened his eyes wide. His face was shocked as he looked at the huge energy bomb. He didn't dare to slow down. He held his palms with both hands, and a blood-red energy wave was sent towards the sky. Block it for me. The blue death ball and blood-red ki wave collided. In an instant, a blinding light illuminated the entire sky. Time seemed to stand still for a moment, and there was nothing but the high-frequency squeezing sound of energy impact in the ears. Boom! Two huge energy collided, the vast shock wave instantly scattered away. The blue death ball momentarily prevailed, pressed the red ki wave slowly crashed into the ground. Rumble. The ground shook, countless gravel debris hit scattered into the air. Dusky smoke obscured the sky and blocked the view. Until several minutes later, the smoke gradually dissipated, vision restored. What came into view was a horrifying and shocking scene. The earth was in tatters, with cracks streaking across it. Not far from there was a huge crater thousands of meters in diameter and bottomless with hot, red magma gushing out around it and the pungent smell of sulfur permeating it. Hurry up and find Big Brother. The Bartle brothers' faces changed dramatically, and they searched around nervously, finally finding their boss not far from the massive crater where the lava was flowing. The Bartle boss was knocked away by the impact generated by the moment of collision, deeply embedded in the rocks, looking very wretched. Carefully rescued the boss, they found Ayaka's slender body was constantly falling from a high altitude. The death ball had exhausted the ki in her body, and now it was difficult even to use the dancing sky technique. Pick her up. The oldest brother commanded towards several brothers. One of the brothers quickly rushed to the bottom of Ayaka's fall and reached out to catch her. After sweeping a look at the devastated earth, the Battle brothers picked up the oldest and Ayaka and flew towards their territory. A few battles down on them consumed a great deal, and their strength had dropped significantly. They must hurry back as soon as possible to be safe. There were many strong people in the demon realm. Although there was a demon realm king for unified management, the territories were completely dependent on their own leaders' strength to control each other. If the nearby demons knew that the Battle brothers were in a weakened state, it would cause the neighboring territories to look at each other. Put me down. Ayaka's state was weak, but after a bit of rest, not to the point of walking or suffering. The Bartle brothers hesitated a bit at the words but finally put her down. Once her feet touched the ground, her body half crouched on the ground, Ayaka took out 4 senzu beans from the bag. Through the fight just now, she also found that the Bartle brothers were not bad-hearted, so she also took out 3 senzu beans for the 3 Battle brothers who had fought with her. This is the senzu beans, eat these senzu beans, and you will soon be able to recover your strength. Ayaka said, putting the senzu beans in her mouth and chewing them up and swallowing them. The effectiveness of the senzu beans was swift. Although it did not immediately restore her to her full strength, the strange energy soon spread throughout her body along her nerves. As if she was bathing in ki, her body was energized. It feels so good to be strong all over. Ayaka smiled and waved her arms. At the moment, her body was rapidly replenishing its strength from the outside world, and she would be able to regain her full strength in no time. The Bartle brothers looked at the vibrant Ayaka with dumbfounded eyes. Then they stared at the dried senzu beans in their hands with astonishment and disbelief, this little bean really has such a magical effect. With fiery eyes gazing at the senzu beans, those few battle brothers who had fought with Ayaka had lost tremendous energy and could not wait to swallow the senzu beans. It was dry without a bit of taste, but after consuming, the feeling soon came up. The three battle brothers had a stunned look on their faces as they felt incredible energy hovering in the various meridian tissues of their bodies. Instantly, all of their body injuries were restored, and the power consumed was slowly recovering. This is recovered? Unbelieving eyes widened, the Bartle brothers stammered a little. Oh, senzu beans is a healing sacred medicine, very precious. Ayaka smiled. She carried no less than 100,000 senzu beans on her. After moving his arm, feeling full of strength, the boss laughed nervously, powerful. This kind of healing speed, I never heard about it, not to mention seeing it, is simply a divine object. The several brothers' blazing eyes looked at Ayaka, the eyes looked like a cute pet begging for food from its owner. Ayaka reached out to feel a small cloth bag, spread out a look. There were dozens of senzu beans inside. Her face hesitated, and finally painfully determined to pick out 20 or so from inside and put them into her jacket pocket, handing the rest of the senzu beans along with the cloth bag to the battle brothers and said, "This time thanks to you guys to accompany me to train. These few battles have made me progress a lot, here are some senzu beans, I'll give them to you." "This is not good," Bartle brothers said with a coy face. They could see that the senzu beans were very precious, otherwise, Ayaka would not be so heartbroken, but yes, something with such magical healing effects, simply a divine thing that could not be found. However, precious things were precious. It was too bad to let such a good thing go. The Bartle brothers' eyes were shining all the time staring at the cloth bag, the hope in their eyes speaks for itself. "It's just some senzu beans. Just take it, I have to bother you guys for the next while." Ayaka smiled and threw the senzu beans over. Such an excellent trial with each other was not easy to find. Ayaka was ready to rely upon in here for a while. As the saying went, you couldn't have the heart of harm, defending against others. The Bartle brothers were, after all, people in the demon realm. The secret of the senzu beans could be revealed only a little bit. It would give some sweetness but could not give indiscriminately. She gave more so that the Bartle brothers felt worthless, and at the same time, let them have the idea that possession was not good. Ayaka's heartache was mainly feigned. She wanted to let the Battle brothers know that she only had these senzu beans on her, and there would be none left after eating them. The Bartle boss hurriedly caught the small cloth bag, carefully collected it, and said cheerfully, "Don't worry, you can choose the next time. We are always ready to fight against you." "Oh, that couldn't be better." Ayaka smiled with satisfaction. Just a few battles have given her a great sense of touch, vaguely touched the legendary realm. As long as she continued to work hard, she believed that it would not take long for the water to come to fruition. The sun and the moon turned upside down, the passage of time, and soon a year has passed. Ayaka has been in the Battle brothers' territory in a year, every other day to challenge them. Countless times the peak of the battle down, and Ayaka felt that she had entered the state. The ki had accumulated in the body to complete, that Super Saiyan barrier seemed to be stabbed open at any time. Recently, Ayaka had felt that she had met the upper limit as if there was a lid on his rising head. Ayaka gave 30 or so senzu beans to the Bartle brothers, whom they had not been willing to use. Anyway, the senzu beans did not have a shelf life, so they would share equally among the 5 brothers. One of them carried 5 or 6 ready to save until the time of crisis. Looking at the so precious senzu beans, Ayaka scraped her face. She seemed to feel that she had given a little less. Phew. Ayaka's body lightly swept from the high altitude, then walked into the Battle brothers' fortress. Ayaka had come to say goodbye. She felt that her breath was complete, and it was time to leave to recuperate for a while. Inside the rock fortress, the Bartle brothers sat around a fire with a 10-meter-long dragon-like creature perched on it. The elder Bartle held a charcoal fire and said with a reluctant face, "Ayaka, why are you leaving so soon?" "Yes, I have vaguely sensed a higher realm, so I need to recuperate for a while next." The Bartle brothers' character made Ayaka have a great heart change towards the demon realm. At least there were still many demons with a pure character like the Bartle brothers. "It's really hard to give up. Seriously, I've seen many strong people but none like you. You're simply a monster. We're not even a match for you anymore." The second brother's face oddly said. This year's battle with Ayaka let him deeply appreciate the meaning of the word monster. Demon's lifespan was relatively long, and the environment was very harsh. They were strong individuals who did not rely on the accumulation of time. Ayaka had improved this year, and in the demon realm, it was absolutely amazing. The five brothers wanted to dominate their side. They were also considered top masters in this area. However, Ayaka had abused them except for the first few battles. From the beginning of the one-on-one battle to the later one-on-two and even one-on-three, she won without incident. Now, even if the five brothers come at the same time, they are simply not Ayaka opponents. That is, with your current growth rate, if you can keep it up, I dare say even in the dark demon realm, you have a place. The Bartle brothers said this, unanimously agreeing that Ayaka's continued stay in the demon realm was a matter of great promise. "How can you only talk about me? You guys have not also become much stronger." Ayaka had a smile on her face. As she finished her meal, she waved goodbye sentimentally. "Well, I'll say goodbye to you guys. Thank you for this year, I hope we'll have the chance to meet again." After saying this, she flew out of the rock fortress. She hovered above for a few weeks and then turned her head and flew past in the distance. The edge of the dark demon realm of the demon realm, Orchid Lake. Orchid Lake was located in the dark demon realm of the relatively edge of the place. Compared to the lesser demon realm, the dark demon realm was richer in ki and more fertile inland. As the dark demon realm's various territories were much smaller than the lesser and greater demon realm, the masters were denser. However, Orchid Lake was relatively remote. In the dark demon realm, in addition to the kingdom of the demon king, the territory was relatively quiet. The blue Orchid Lake was shimmering. The shore of the lake was lush with green grass, and tall, upright shrubs surrounded the lake's shore. The leaves rustle in the breeze, and the lake ripples. The lavender daylight shines through the low leaves of the bushes on the surface of the lake, revealing a spot of light in the place of the lakeshore. It was beautiful. As if a smooth, flat mirror, the center of the lake occasionally spotted a show, but most of the time is calm. No one knew that just below the glittering calm lake surface, a cold crystal palace was lurking. The bottom of the lake, emitting a deep chill ice king palace, Ayaka calmly sitting on her knees. A crystal-like longsword was hovering around the top of her head, hovering very slowly, showing its owner a calm and serene state of mind. Ayaka did not use strong emotions as in the original Son Goku, and Vegeta prompted themselves to transform into Super Saiyan but chose to train to the realm of completion, the natural breakthrough. In her opinion, relying on extreme emotions to force a breakthrough was always bad. Even if you enjoy the Super Saiyan power in advance with the help of emotions, but that was transient. Because the mental and physical body did not reach the edge of the breakthrough, the hasty transformation would inevitably affect the play. Then, the Super Saiyan was somewhat weak. Even if the extreme anger led to the transcendent play, the late stage need to exercise to be able to really reach the qualified Super Saiyan realm. She called Son Goku's transformation triggered by the emotion of anger Sub-Super Saiyan. He could not master the Super Saiyan ability freely and could not be called a real Super Saiyan. In the original story, Son Goku returned from planet Yadrit when he could freely control the state of transformation when it can be called Super Saiyan. Of course, the early transformation of the Super Saiyan had advantages and disadvantages. The good thing was that when encountering strong enemies, his power level surged, which could save his life. Moreover, he could feel Super Saiyan state in advance, which was conducive to the first to cross the level. The disadvantage was that it made the starting point of the first stage of the Super Saiyan pull down a lot, which would not affect the later transformations. Ayaka was not quite sure. However, she believed that she should have some benefit if she adopted the way of transforming with the device's fullness to advance steadily. Although the initial accumulation cost her a lot of time, Ayaka was convinced that her transformation should be able to control the energy freely. The transformation starting point was also higher, which meant that her Super Saiyan state must be quite a bit thicker than Son Goku's and others. In the icy palace, Ayaka had been meditating for months. Her mind was calm and soothing, and her mind and body were in a state of complete forgetfulness. One day, the ki energy that haunted Ayaka's body suddenly burned wildly. The ki in the ice palace followed the violent stirring, and the cold breath washed the flesh a little. Ayaka's body and mind stretched, and the cells of the whole body began to move. The strange energy cells gradually generated, and the golden breath turned into tiny air currents into the branch veins of the body and then gathered into a flow of golden energy, some through the skin to the outside world. For a time, the body surface of the starting energy boiled. The light golden ki energy, like a blazing fire, gradually began to burn up. Over time, the ki flame became more powerful, and the color became darker and darker. The color of the ki gradually turned from light golden to golden and finally presented a golden glow, golden yellow. Boom! The golden-colored ki flame rose to the sky, and the majestic and vast aura enveloped the entire palace. ZZ. The air in Ayaka's cycle rubbed together. Suddenly, her flaxen hair emitted a golden glow, and all of her hair colors became golden. Except for the long hair on the back, the golden bangs on her forehead fluttered toward her temples. In an instant, the long hair and eyebrows emitted a golden luster, and even the tightly closed pupils turned into turquoise eyes. Super Saiyan. Ayaka opened her eyes, and her turquoise pupils were cold and piercing, without a trace of emotion. It finally worked. Ayaka muttered, emotionally calm and spirited. This is the Super Saiyan. It's so powerful, much stronger than the original Son Goku's first transformation. She briefly perceived that the Super Saiyan state of her power level instantly soared to 95 million. Of course, this was not the real power of the Super Saiyan. She then controlled her body at will, changing continuously between the normal and Super Saiyan states. Sure enough, I can completely control the transformed state. Now is only the first transformation, wait until the complete mastery of the Super Saiyan state strength will have a greater rise. Ayaka's spirit lifted. She put away the divine sword on her head, then flew out of the bottom of the lake, but the Ice King's palace in her arms, and after that flew towards the rest of the core territory of the demon world. Now, she needed to fight and get her body to use its new power faster. She was confident that it would only take a few months to increase her power level to above 100 million definitely. It was said that the real Super Saiyan was 50 times the norm. Of course, this was for the power level of Son Goku. Ayaka was touching the threshold and breakthrough. Naturally, there was no exaggerated leap of 50 times like Son Goku. According to the 50 times calculation, Ayaka had to reach at least 600 or 700 million to be truly qualified. 4 months later, a silver-white polar glacier. Poof! 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 Several glowing blue ki waves shot over, hitting the glacier rocks. A series of explosions like a tiger whistling ape cry spread out. Thousands of years of standing ice mountain canyon collapsed, a large piece of ice broken off, have slipped into the river. The ki boost almost stabilized. This is the strength of the Super Saiyan. Ayaka transformed into Super Saiyan, floating in the air with a golden glow burning all over her body. She clenched her fist and felt the amazing energy coming from her body. She wanted to roar with excitement, and if she was just the equivalent of a child when she first transformed 4 months ago, she was now considered an adult. The first 4 months of the Super Saiyan realm allowed her to grow by leaps and bounds, and she was completely transformed. In just 4 months, she felt her ki had nearly doubled again. This was the real threshold of entering the Super Saiyan. Resisting the excitement in her heart, Ayaka flew towards the Demon King's castle located in the center. To the flight, Ayaka's immense aura deterred countless demons, but none of the demons dared to take the initiative to challenge. To survive in the dark demon realm, the person must be super strong and knowledgeable. After sensing the aura from Ayaka high in the sky, they all wisely chose to hide. Strange, how come none of the demons came to stop me? Ayaka shook her head regretfully, then, she came to her senses. She dared to think that the aura she emitted was too powerful, and many demons were deterred. She lifted her Super Saiyan state. Her hair and pupil color returned to their original color, and her body's ki immediately converged into her body. It didn't take long for some demons to come out and intercept her. There's prey on the doorstep. Ayaka's eyebrows were twitched to measure up to come out to intercept the demon race. The demon's body was covered with scales and hard armor, with 2 red tails at the back. The strength was not bad with several tens of millions. However, the demon apparently did not know the terrifying strength of Ayaka. It spoke in a very arrogant tone, making Ayaka was immediately upset, and several ki waves popped him into ashes. Do I look that easy to bully? Strangely looking at a few wisps of smoke draped around the remnants, Ayaka turned in place a few times. Along the way dealt with several high-level demons, she got closer and closer to the Demon King's castle. The closer the Demon King's castle appeared, the stronger the demon's strength, sensing the strength of hundreds of millions of strong people more and more. While flying, Ayaka sensed the surrounding atmosphere. Suddenly, the surrounding environment became pitch black, not penetrating a bit of bright light, as if wrapped up by a huge dark sphere. What is the situation? Ayaka, amazed and stopped herself, carefully surveyed the surrounding, 100 kilometers in diameter, all become dark. To make such a big noise, the opponent is not ordinary yet. However, she was not frightened, and a smile dotted her face. Ayaka's heart leaped, and she could not wait to explore. As she kept sweeping, she soon caught the other party's tail. The aura was powerful but strange, a kind of demon race that excels in devouring light. Attacking over. Her eyes were awe-inspiring, and then a cold smile hung on her face. She had long locked the opponent's ki, and any movement of the opponent could not escape her perception. Swoosh! A sharp bayonet in the darkness towards her. Ayaka's body was agile, and she sidestepped. Her eyes flashed coldly, and she quickly changed her body's direction and instantly counterattacked towards her opponent. Those who didn't know how to sense the ki thought that the darkness could trap their opponents, but they didn't know that as long as they could harness the ki, they could be comfortable even in the dark. Bang! Bang! Ayaka stretched her palm like a knife. Her body moved skillfully, slapping a fist and a palm on the sharp edge. Her palm clung to the sharp edge, with a slight effort to deflect the opponent's attack. With the hiss, it repeatedly missed. The opponent let out a beast-like hiss, seemingly enraged. There's something odd about this sound. It's not like the voice of a demon. The sharp blade doesn't look like a weapon, but like a growth. Ayaka backed up her body, her brain turned flexibly. *T, is the opponent not a demon? Ayaka sprinted back and pulled away hundreds of meters, then pushed the ki in her body to turn herself into a Super Saiyan. Boom! 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 The body emitted a golden glow, dazzling bright light like a searchlight immediately illuminated the surrounding area. The opponent's appearance was quickly revealed. Ayaka's turquoise eyes looked up, and shocked eyes flashed in his icy pupils. The sharp claws, the bloody mouth, the lizard-like rough skin, and the ability to devour light. The image was instantly recognizable, and Ayaka blurted out, "It's a monster." No, this is the demon realm. How did the demon beast Yakon appear in the demon realm? Demon beast Yakon was from the dark planet, which could eat light and was good at dark combat. In the original story, demon beast Yakon was controlled by the wizard Babidi with magic. Finally, due to devouring too much energy light, it was hardened by Sun Wukong's energy and burst into flames and died. Regardless of why the demon beast Yakon appeared in the demon realm, Ayaka's priority was to defeat it. Demon beast Yakon looked small and should not be as powerful as the original, but it was a little stronger than the other demons Ayaka had encountered. Ha ha ha, demon beast Yakon, you like eating light so much, so enjoy it. Ayaka laughed out loud. Her body glowed with golden light. Demon beast Yakon saw the prey emitting an incomparably bright light, 2 eyes glared, blood basin mouth among the saliva continuously secreted out, long tongue excitedly licking the mouth. A huge suction force showed up, like a greedy tautai swallowing mountains and rivers like crazy absorption of light. Feeling the huge suction force constantly extracting energy from the body, Ayaka sneered, turquoise pupils in the cold light flashed. Steeply all over the body, light shone violently, powerful and terrifying energy high-powered output. The body energy constantly gushed out, turned into a golden light shining. Immediately devoured by demon beast Yakon, and week after week, Ayaka's ki in the body was only half left. This is the time. Seeing the right moment, suddenly the remaining ki in the body a brain output. Without a trace of awareness, immediately by the huge impact of energy, the entire body swelled up violently. Looking at the bloated and swollen demon beast Yakon, who would explode at any moment, Ayaka grunted coldly and shook his head and sighed, I can't believe I've used up my whole body's ki. However, it was a good thing that this demon beast hadn't grown yet and could only have a limited capacity of energy. Boom! The demon beast Yakon body burst, containing a huge energy shock wave spread towards the surrounding. 100 kilometers square of darkness immediately disappeared. Ayaka was back to normal, panting and sitting on the ground. If demon beast Yakon lasts for a while, I don't know who will be the one who finished. This tactic was completely different than the capacity of the ki of both sides. Without a little confidence, she did not dare to make it. Huh, interesting little kid. You kill my pet. A man's voice came. Ayaka alertly stared up and hurriedly got up from the ground and carefully examined her surroundings. She looked up and saw a man in a blue cloak flying in the sky. This is... Ayaka looked at the other man in surprise, obviously surprised by his appearance. The robust body, the light red complexion, the blue clothing on his body, and the 2 horn-like protrusions on his head all indicated his identity. King Dabura of the demon realm, how come you have time to stay in the demon realm if you are not out conquering the world? Ayaka felt her throat a little dry. Dabura was much more powerful than the Super Saiyan, but she said with a mouth full of words to hide her weakness. Dabura smiled lightly, since I am the king of the demon realm, the entire demon realm is my territory. How come I can't stay in the demon realm? But when you talk about conquering the outside world, it's a very good decision. Oh. Ayaka's eyes rolled a few times. Dabura hadn't left the demon realm, but this was still a long way from his demon king's castle, so how did he end up here? Little girl, you killed my hard-to-find pet, how do you think you can compensate me? Dabura domineering boundless floating in the air. He seemed to be talking casually but put Ayaka under immense pressure. Carefully activate the unsighted, Ayaka was ready to understand the difference between herself and Dabura. Just as soon as the unsighted opened, a stabbing pain came, Ayaka felt as if her eyes were burning, the pain was unbearable. The gap is too big for the unsighted to detect. Ayaka immediately recognized the reality. Even the detection of the unsighted was blocked. Escape. The thought arose in her heart, Ayaka then prepared to launch instant transmission. At this time, Dabura's eyes flashed alarm. He seemed to perceive the energy of the unsighted, and his body instantly disappeared. Kid, go to hell. The cold voice came, making Ayaka startled. Then a fierce attack came, she simply had no time to dodge, not even the opportunity to move instantly. Dabura's powerful punch was about to land on Ayaka. With Ayaka's current condition, there was no chance of her taking it. At that moment, Ayaka's body fluorescence flashed, space around as if melting the general's subtle bending, and a crystal-transparent longsword appeared. Bang! A solidly textured impact, resisting Dabura's terrifying blow. Ayaka certainly wouldn't waste this opportunity. She hurried to adjust the state to activate the teleportation. Swoosh! She disappeared. The punch fell short, causing Dabura's face to be gloomy. His eyes were as cold as if to freeze into ice, and he looked thoughtfully at the place where Ayaka disappeared. Is it Kibito's instant transmission? That weird long sword. Humph, count her lucky to escape from the hands of this demon king. 10,000 miles away from Dabura in a ruin, Ayaka's body suddenly appeared there. Ayaka gasped and leaned against the rock wall, took out a senzu bean, and ate it. Only after her body regained some strength did she think to herself in shock. Fortunately, the Ice King Divine Sword appeared in time, otherwise it would have been in big trouble. Dabura is worthy of the king of the demon realm who does not even care about Kai. His strength is frightening. The difference in strength between us is too large for the unsighted to detect. To defeat Dabura, at least I need to reach the second stage of Super Saiyan. Ayaka understood her strength. Compared to the original Son Goku returned to Earth from planet Yardrat, she was much stronger. Even so, her gap with Dabura was still so big that the unsighted could not detect the situation. The first stage of the Super Saiyan was unbelievably large span to complete, but to defeat Dabura, it required at least the second stage of strength. So, you could imagine how powerful Dabura was. After a bit of rest, Ayaka soon on the road again. This time she did not enter the Dark Demon Realm but wandered around the Greater Demon Realm. Another few months passed, the deadline for the appointment with the girls was getting closer and closer. Ayaka stopped training and prepared to leave the Demon Realm, unaware that she had been in the Demon Realm for 2 years. Ayaka traveled back to the territory of King Shula on the Lesser Demon World. After waiting for a few days, the girls also came over. Parting for 2 years, Ayaka missed them. Ayaka smiled when she saw the 2 sisters with almost identical appearance and clothing and happily welcomed them. She found that the 2 sisters' progress in 2 years was also rapid, basically reaching 10 million power levels. The 3 of them chatted happily about their experiences and insights in the past few days. They then launched an instant transmission to leave the Demon Realm. After they left, the scouts sent by King Shula sent the news back to King Shula, making the bigwigs who stayed in King Shula's mansion breathe a sigh of relief in unison. The southeastern island was overcast and rainy. The 23rd World Martial Arts Tournament was about to be held after 3 years. The southeastern island was located in the subtropical zone and had a more pleasant climate than the previous tournament place held on Papaya Island. Besides, a large number of people living on the southeast island, and hotels and shopping malls were located all over the island. The tourists worldwide converged on the island as the conference was about to be held, making the whole island boisterous and lively. Krillin and the others haven't come yet. At the registration desk, Violet held an umbrella and watched the long queue. Master Roshi looked at his watch. The time had passed, but none of the disciples had arrived yet. These kids really have no sense of time. The tournament is so important that they are still playing late. Creak. The ear-piercing sound of brakes was heard, and several people jumped down from the taxi. Oolong, Poir. Violet waved her hand enthusiastically and greeted Oolong as they passed. Bulma hit the umbrella, all leather and long hair flowing, walked out of the car. Master Roshi looked at her whole body, got all hot and bothered, and unconsciously touched her palm. Pop! An arm smashed out in anger hit Master Roshi's eyes. Bulma's red face indignant, B****, you touched me. After so long not see still the same lust. Master Roshi covered his eyes, embarrassed to compensate for the smile, mouth whispered, muttering, Bulma is not the same. You're still so vicious, and I do not know how to be reserved. What? Bulma glared angrily. Master Roshi smartly shut his mouth, no longer say more, and turned to chat with Oolong. On the roadside, a 4 or 5-year-old girl chasing balloons running over, balloons flying with the air currents where a bunch of tree branches hooked. Due to height problems, Bulma took a lot of effort to help the little girl take down the balloon. At that moment, a young man pulled the balloon floating on the tree branch to hand over a little girl, smiling and greeting Master Roshi and them. Ah! Grandpa Roshi, Bulma, everyone long time no see. Master Roshi wiped his eyes, puzzled looking at the umbrella youth, gulping, face showing disbelief asked, "Well, is it you or Goku?" "That's me." "Oh, I have a cloth wrapped around my head so you cannot recognize it," then I take the cloth off. "It's really Goku." Everyone was amazed. The former short child has grown into a handsome boy. "Goku, you have grown so much taller," Bulma said in surprise. Son Goku playfully touched his head. "Oh, really, you all became shorter." "Bulma, your lips are so red, are you sick?" "That's lipstick, and we're not getting shorter, you're getting taller." Bulma rolled her eyes helplessly. Son Goku had one thing that has not changed, which was not versed in the world. It was simply a little too much. Krillin, Tien Shinhan have not come. Son Goku scanned and did not find Krillin and the other 4. Master Roshi nodded, his face a little anxious. Registration time is about to pass, but they have not even seen the shadow of a person. The rain gradually became less, and the sun shone down through the clouds. Son Goku spirited, and Master Roshi was chatting about his life in the lookout. When he learned that Ayaka was a kami of Earth, Master Roshi opened his mouth wide and froze. It took him a long time to react, and then he sighed with emotion. Awesome, no wonder the strength is so outstanding. She is actually a kami. Associated with Ayaka's appalling strength, Master Roshi couldn't help but nod his head repeatedly. Ayaka is the kami of Earth? Bulma and Oolong's acceptance level was not as good as Master Roshi's. After getting the confirmation, they shouted in shock. "Goku, 3 years of training in the divine realm, your strength should improve a lot, right?" Master Roshi poked his arm. He couldn't help but ask. That tone of voice had comfort and envy. After all, to go to the divine realm to train was the limit of all martial artists. Son Goku scratching his head and said in a serious tone, "Well, under the guidance of Mr. Popo and the old kami, I learned a lot, and my strength has grown a lot." Master Roshi nodded in understanding, then looked at his watch. Not much time left before the registration deadline, but Krillin and the others hadn't come yet. 5 minutes until the end of registration, hurry up and come to register if you haven't done so yet. The staff repeatedly shouted with the loudspeaker. Ah, how come Yamcha is still not coming? Registration will soon be over. The sun was setting, and Bulma's face was anxious. With less than 5 minutes until the deadline, Bulma said to Oolong, "It's not too late for you to become Krillin and the other, and sign up." "No, I have to rest for a minute after each transformation, it's too late." Oolong glared at the eyes, not happy. "Then what should we do? Krillin and the others are going to miss the convention." Suddenly, Son Goku whispered with a smile on his face, "Don't bother so much, they're here." He sensed that 4 Ki were approaching. "Are they coming?" Oolong asked suspiciously. Just at that moment, 4 figures flashed quickly, leaving only a faint residue. Son Goku sighted towards the front, and 4 more figures appeared at the martial arts tournament registration. Krillin, Yamcha, and Tien Shinhan, and Kaiatsu arrived at the last moment. "Krillin, Tien Shinhan, you are here." Master Roshi and Bulma gathered around them. "Long time no see, everyone," Krillin said with a smile as he took off his hat. "Goku, this time I will not lose to you." Tien Shinhan clenched his fist confidently said. "In order to catch up with you, I dare not sleep much at night for 3 years. The strength is not what it used to be." Yamcha had an extra scar on his face, and his hair had become much longer. Son Goku said with a happy face, don't be too happy, you guys. This time I have also been training hard. Let's have a good fight tomorrow at the martial arts tournament. Of course. They joked and signed up, then arranged for a hotel for the night. As the registration deadline was closed tonight, the martial arts tournament selection would take place tomorrow morning. At night, Son Goku and others arranged the hotel and made final preparations in their respective rooms. It was raining again, violent storms accompanied by occasional lightning and thunder, and pedestrians on the street rushed to catch up outside the window. Boom! Lightning struck the clock tower on a high building. Stone and clock metal parts from the high altitude fell with a bang, smashing into the streets of pedestrians. Boom! The flying rock fell and was destroyed by a wave of energy. When it was about to strike a person, someone struck the rock, saving the pedestrian below. The one who struck was a strange green man in a white cloak. Boring. The green-skinned strange man snorted coldly and turned away with a cold expression. On a stall on a side street corner, 3 young girls clearly saw the scene just now. Aha, that Piccolo B** starred still has a change of heart. Ayaka smiled and said to the girls. Initially, Launch would leave Earth to tour the North area, but Ayaka stayed and told them to watch the martial arts tournament before going. From the aura, Piccolo doesn't look like a pure demon anymore. A little guidance and he might change his ways. The following day, the sun was shining. Son Goku and others put on their martial arts uniforms to enter the martial arts hall early in the morning. The participants would be selected in the morning to choose the top 8 masters for this tournament. I know this time Master Roshi will not prepare martial arts clothing, so specially had a custom made. Krillin put on the martial arts uniform with the word turtle on it and said proudly, the heroes have the same opinion. Yamcha also took out his martial arts clothes and put them on, moving his wrists, his eyes full of confidence. After these hard work years, Krillin, Yamcha, Tian Shinhan, and other people's strengths had full progress. Son Goku changed into a martial arts uniform and came over. Yamcha noticed no trail behind Son Goku, surprised, and called out, Goku, where is your tail? Oh, the old Kami cut it off. I can't figure it out, he said he thought my tail was in the way. Speaking of this matter, Son Goku was also full of amazement. This so. Yamcha remembered the full moon when Son Goku turned into a giant ape. Without a tail, it eliminated a hidden problem, so he did not ask. Like sensing something, Son Goku's face condensed. He became alert up. Seeing Son Goku suddenly looked grave alert, Krillin and Yamcha asked curiously, what's wrong Goku, what's happening? Son Goku turned around and gazed through the dense crowd at a strange man in a cloak in the martial arts hall corner. The other man also stared at him with icy eyes, then turned away with a cold snort. What an icy stare. He seems to be very powerful. Goku, do you know each other? Tian Shinhan's face was gloomy. He sensed that the other side was emitting a terrifying sense of oppression, and his whole body actually produced a feeling of being bound. Well, the other side is very strong and it's good. Krillin, whoever touches him in the game immediately admit defeat, or their lives may not be safe. Son Goku's tone was serious. Piccolo's strength exceeds his original many times under the intervention of Ayaka. Tian Shinhan and others were no match. You joking, right? Our strength is much improved, is that guy that strong? Krillin asked in disbelief. Son Goku nodded and gruffly warned, he is the newborn Demon King Piccolo, the strength is many times stronger than the previous Demon King Piccolo. Demon King Piccolo is actually not dead. Krillin and everyone else looked shocked and startled, cold sweat brushed down. Although they had improved their strength in 3 years of training, they were only a little stronger than Demon King Piccolo back then. They had no chance of winning against the newborn Demon King Piccolo. Yamcha gulped, his fists clenched, and cursed with a face of resignation, damn. After 3 years of hard practice, I wanted to perform well, but there was Demon King Piccolo. Goku, it seems that we have to leave it to you to deal with that guy. They weren't the rivals of the newborn Demon King Piccolo, this self-knowledge was still there. Son Goku nodded seriously. The passion in his blood seemed to surge up as his eyes flashing with excitement. Leave the Demon King Piccolo to me, when the time comes, you can fight well. At this time, a slender young girl's hand tapped on the shoulder of Son Goku, said in a soft tone, "Hey, Son Goku, long time no see." The group looked back and saw a cute young girl in a gown with an excellent figure looking at them with a smile on her face. "Who are you?" Son Goku lowered his head close to the young girl and asked in a strange tone. Surprisingly, he doesn't recognize me. The young girl's serene face flashed a trace of dismay, slight disbelief. Then, her face became red, and she roared in anger, "You even forgot, idiot." After yelling, the young girl pressed no urge to explain, angrily turned away. A girl actually took the initiative to talk to. And seems to know Goku. Look. Krillin enviously grabbed Son Goku's collar. His tone resignedly shouted, "Such a cute girl, are you really practicing in the divine realm these years? How can there be such a lovely girl looking for you? Also, you actually forgot who she is. It's really enviable that you make her angry." The people around nodded in unison. Son Goku innocently said, "I really do not know her. Why does anybody look for me?" Krillin didn't want to hear it, the whole thing pined away. Why would a guy like Goku have a cute girl approaching him while he had no one to pay attention to? The irritating thing was that this guy, Son Goku, actually looked like he was indifferent. The difference. Players, I have kept you all waiting. The preliminaries will start soon, please concentrate towards the middle for a moment. The voice of the staff sounded over the radio, and all the contestants have concentrated over it. The host began to draw lots after introducing the rules of the competition. Son Goku and others were lucky not to be drawn into the same section. Ah, Son Goku, after 3 years of hard training, this time I'm going to wipe out the shame. Once on the field, Son Goku met his old rival, King Chappa, whose strength was no longer at the same level as Son Goku at this time. Son Goku looked at his opponent with a bland face, standing straight on the stage without any defensive action. B****, look down on me. King Chappa shouted angrily, and his hands danced quickly to use his best technique. However, King Chappa was no match for his son Goku at all and was finally knocked out by Son Goku with a hand slash before he even found out where his opponent was. The referee was frozen and took a long time to react and announced, "Son Goku wins." That's interesting. But the final victory will definitely be mine. Son Goku, I will defeat you in front of everyone's eyes. Piccolo revealed an icy smile, and a cold light flashed in his eyes. Boom! 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 The flag-robed girl focused on fighting her opponent with agile hands and quick and accurate strikes. That maiden's strength is good. Tian Shinhan hands around the ring, looking at the young girl in a dress. I can't believe it, it's a girl, it feels like I've seen it somewhere. Yamcha frowned at the girl in the ring. For a moment, he thought the girl looked familiar but couldn't remember where he had seen her. The various tournaments were in full swing. In the end, in addition to Kaiatsu accidentally encountered Cyborg Tao and was seriously injured, everyone entered the top 8 as expected. The top 8 were, Son Goku, Piccolo, Krillin, Tien Shinhan, Yamcha, Anonymous, Hero, Old Kami, and Cyborg Tao. This is the end of the morning preliminaries. The top 8 matches will be held in the afternoon in the open-air ring, the audience will see your performance, I wish you all good performance. After finishing the preliminaries, Son Goku and others walked out of the martial arts hall, and Master Roshi rendezvoused with them. After a painful meal, Master Roshi crowded into the front of the martial arts hall stands, shaking his hand and waving to cheer everyone on. The backstage, the nameless girl tangled gaze at Son Goku. Her angry expression hangs on her pretty face, and her mouth whispers reluctantly, B****, I can't believe he forgot who I am. I must teach him a good lesson. Chi-Chi, come here for a moment. An extremely penetrating voice rang in her ears. The nameless girl Chi-Chi shook her head, not finding anyone, and the others also seemed to have not heard the voice at all. Forget it, I'll get you. The words just fell. Chi-Chi shouted, and her whole body was affected by a strong suction force, and she flew into the sky at once. Son Goku turned his head in confusion and looked at the place where Chi-Chi was standing, then blankly turned back. There seems to be some sound just now, how come I didn't see it? Thousands of meters high in the air, Chi-Chi scanned around in shock. When noticing that she was floating high in the sky, her whole body trembled and struggled with a panicked look. Don't worry about falling. Ayaka appeared beside Chi-Chi, pointing to the void beneath her feet as if it was as solid as flat ground, and said, this area is all enchanted by me with divine power, just like the ground, you won't fall. You are. Chi-Chi patted her chest, looked at the young girl in front of him, and called out in surprise, Sister Ayaka. Surprisingly able to see Ayaka at a glance, it seemed that Chi-Chi's memory was indeed much better than Son Goku and had enough backbone to be angry at Son Goku for not remembering her. Ayaka smiled and patted the girl's shoulder and then introduced the girls around. Chi-Chi was surprised and finally calmed down, and then looked indignant complained, Sister, you have to give me a reason. Goku actually forgot me. Looked at a face of anger, as if greatly aggrieved by the young girl. Ayaka couldn't help but laugh lightly, oh, don't worry. Goku forgot you because you changed too much to recognize. I'll definitely support you and be on your side. Son Goku and Chi-Chi's marriage was set under self-planning, they would be on no matter what. In the original story, the two of them would be set smoothly at the current conference. Thank you, sister. Chi-Chi's face blushed up. With Ayaka's strong backing, she was instantly filled with confidence. The first of the 8 matches of the World First Martial Arts Tournament was nearing its end, with Tian Shinhan vs Cyborg Tao. Tian Shinhan overwhelmingly dominated the upper hand. After Cyborg Tao showed his mechanical weapon, Tian Shinhan became angry. Cyborg Tao's shameless behavior completely lost the martial artist's dignity and disgraced Crane School. Finally, the angry Tian Shinhan let out a roar to extinguish Cyborg Tao's Dodon Ray and knocked Cyborg Tao unconscious with a heavy punch. Cyborg Tao's use of weapons has violated the rules of the tournament. This match is won by Tian Shinhan. The host announced the result loudly, then said in the audience's enthusiastic expectation, the second match was the previous martial arts tournament champion, Son Goku, versus the preliminaries rival, the unknown girl. Please invite both players to the stage. It's my turn. Son Goku tightened his belt and walked onto the martial arts stage, and a loud cheer erupted from the audience of the conference. Goku is the previous champion, very popular. Krillin rubbed his nose with a sour look. That's for sure, I wonder who that nameless person really is. She seems to have seen somewhere. Yamcha knocked his head to recall. Chi-Chi, it's your turn to come on, and set your affairs in motion later. Ayaka smiled as he released his divine power to send Kiki to the ground. Feeling the surroundings change, Chi-Chi was already in the ring, looking at the opposite face of a bewildered Son Goku. Chi-Chi was not happy. Fantastic way for the nameless contestant to come to the ring, let's give a big applause. The host made a big deal out of it. Why are you always huffing and puffing? The girl's attitude had always made Son Goku feel puzzled, but without asking a good question, Chi-Chi got even angrier. She said angrily, then you have to ask yourself. Chi-Chi said and launched a fierce attack on Son Goku. Her hands and feet were in order with a great sense of rhythm, as flexible as a snake in the water. The punches and kicks were full of force. Son Goku simply couldn't remember who Chi-Chi was. His body dodged from side to side to avoid the attack, and a series of attacks came down. The arena was already dazzled by the interweaving of fist shadows, and the audience could not help but shout out loud. After a series of attacks, Chi-Chi's head oozed with sweat, and her breath began to disorder, while Son Goku was still the same as usual, even his breathing did not change. "Hey, who the hell are you? I can't remember." Dodging Chi-Chi's attack, Son Goku's body flashed to come in front of Chi-Chi. Chi-Chi was startled, her body quickly backed up, and immediately after standing firm, she roared in anger, "Have you forgotten everything, our agreement? I've been looking forward to this day." "What's the agreement?" Son Goku stood in the ring bewildered. "Oh, Goku's ability to read people is not enough, I guess it's understandable why Chi-Chi is angry. What do you think Goku's reaction will be when he knows Chi-Chi's identity?" Ayaka repeatedly shook her head. Hatred could not be ironed out. Launch and Lancey rolled their eyes. They did not pay attention to it. Only Ayaka was there to watch with great interest. Goku and that girl really know each other. Krillin was lying on a stone pillar, gazing enviously at the ring. In the stands, Master Roshi was looking at the young girl's hands against the sunlight and said strangely, "How strange. That girl's martial arts are actually so high, quite pure. And it has the technique of my turtle school. Our agreement is you said you would marry me." Chi-Chi shouted. A swift attack was launched, and the whole audience was shocked. They dared to think that this was a couple feud. Krillin, Yamcha, and others stared in amazement, collectively frozen. "Wife? When did this guy Goku make a deal with such a cute girl?" Krillin exclaimed jealously. How did Goku have a fiancé?" Bulma covered her mouth in surprise and looked at the young girl on the stage with a shocked expression. "Humph, you guys are really retarded. Haven't you even remembered by now?" Oolong said with a disdainful face. Bulma couldn't help but ask in wonder, "Do you know who that girl is?" Master Roshi and Violet all turned their eyes to Oolong, waiting for him to say the identity of the girl. Oolong raised his head. He said smugly, "Idiot, you can associate it from her ki. Bulma, Puar and Master Roshi have seen her, have you forgotten something so important?" The crowd was still puzzled, still could not remember who the girl really was. "It seems that you are all idiots, Oolong is the smartest head among the group." Oolong laughed out loud. After a series of painful blows on the martial arts stage, Chi-Chi rubbed her somewhat painful palms and jumped to the side. She then took a deep breath to calm herself down and seriously set up her posture to make an appearance that she would attack again at any time. "Humph, what kind of expert is it if you only know how to defend? If you can beat me, then I will tell you my identity." Son Goku smiled brightly and then said happily, "Okay. As long as you are defeated, you have to tell me who you are. Hey, although I know you are very strong, but you are so sure to defeat me? It's not okay to be too gullible. Then I'm going to attack." Son Goku said. His whole body emitted a strong sense of oppression. His breathing was as light as silk and became incomparably calm. At first glance, it was as if he was about to stop breathing, and a tranquil and far-reaching mood swept away. Ho! Son Goku suddenly swung a fist with strength. At once, the majestic force generated, stirring up an intense whirlwind. The whirlwind squeaked like a wolf and a tiger, along with a huge air-breaking sound boom, hit over. Bang! Chi-Chi made a short cry of surprise, and her whole body was hit by the huge powerful wind, with the wind flying out of the field. Ha! Such a result left everyone frozen with a bewildered look on their faces. They couldn't imagine that what they thought would be a couple fight would end so easily. How did Son Goku knock his opponent out of the ring in one fell swoop? At this moment, the host reacted and announced loudly, nameless player fell out of the field. Son Goku won. As expected of the champion of the Supreme World Tournament, contestant Son Goku's strength is unfathomable. The audience on the stage reacted and burst into violent applause. Master Roshi's eyes were shining, and his face was grave as he thought, the average person may not be able to see, Goku just swung a fierce punch. The airflow generated by this punch made the girl not even have time to dodge. It looks like Goku's strength has become much stronger. No, has been unfathomable. On the roof of the martial arts venue, Piccolo looked at the field. When Son Goku swung a punch, Piccolo's face flashed a look of surprise. How strange, this move is very much like our demon race. Piccolo did not know that the one who taught Son Goku to practice was Mr. Popo and the old Kami. The great demon King Piccolo and the old Kami were originally one, and there were similarities in many moves. Oh, it hurts. Not bad for a master. I didn't expect you to be that good. Such a man is worthy of being my husband. Chi-Chi struggled to get up from the ground, rubbing her head in annoyance, and said, "Still haven't thought of it. I'm the Ox King's daughter Chi-Chi." Chi-Chi. Yamcha, Master Roshi, and other people were violently shocked. Their mind recalled the appearance of Chi-Chi when she was young. How they could not link the petite girl with the young girl now. Was it a woman who had changed? The Ox King actually produced such a beautiful daughter. Humph, that's it. I knew it a long time ago. Oolong rubbed his nose in triumph. Bulma also remembered and suddenly said, "That's right. I also remembered, the Ox King's daughter did have a marriage contract with Goku. I did not expect her to actually be Chi-Chi." How come I didn't know? Master Roshi asked in surprise. It's all set by Ayaka. At that time Goku also agreed. Really? I see. When I was small, I did agree with you. Well, at that time I thought it was something delicious. Son Goku dawned on him, then chirped, "Since we've talked about it, let's get married." Puff. The crowd pounced on the ground. Chi-Chi was so happy when she heard that. She jumped on Son Goku, grabbed his arm, and did not let go. She did not care if Son Goku took her seriously before. As long as the word marriage came out of Son Goku's mouth, and the two were going to be together in the future, that was enough. Dang! 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 The host cheered loudly and said enthusiastically, "Everyone, Son Goku and Nameless have decided to get married." With the sound of loud gongs and colorful cannons, enthusiastic blessings came from the audience. Oh, don't get too close. Son Goku did not adapt to the way Chi-Chi held his hand. He leaned over as a whole and had a difficult face, but Chi-Chi did not listen to the advice at all and continued to hold him in a deadly hug. Ah! Krillin was envious. As he spun into tears, his teeth clenched tightly. Yamcha has Bulma, and now even Goku is getting married. I don't even like the girl yet, why would I be so unfortunate? Krillin, do not be so sad. Goku is lucky to have a sister to help him matchmaking. Yamcha came close to Krillin and whispered, "Besides, you have a good girl next to you. I think Violet is very good. Let Bulma and Ayaka help to talk about it." The next match is between Krillin and Ma Jr., Piccolo. As the host announced loudly, Krillin looked as if he was dying, and his whole body was listless. He knew that he was really the most unfortunate person under the sky, and he was sure to lose this match. "Krillin, you have to be careful, Piccolo will not necessarily abide by the rules of the tournament. Wait a moment, as soon as something is not right, immediately surrender," Son Goku said seriously. Krillin and Piccolo's strength gaps were too wide. If Piccolo didn't abide by the competition rules, then Krillin's life would be in danger, so Son Goku was also ready to strike at any time. "Understood, but I still want to try. Although the strength gap is large, it would be sorry for my 3 years of hard training if I don't compete properly." Krillin walked onto the martial arts stage and then stood in a corner waiting for Piccolo to come out. "Humph, that bald guy is Son Goku's brother. I have to treat him well." Piccolo sneered and stood on the roof of the martial arts venue, sweeping a circle with cold eyes. Just then, a young girl's voice came into the ears. "Piccolo, later on, you have to take control of your hand, otherwise I do not guarantee that something bad will happen." "Who?" Piccolo's heart was startled, then quickly turned his head. However, when looking at the three young girls who appeared in front of him, his green face twitched slightly. His whole face stiffened, and his face showed a smile that was worse than crying. "So it's you three, what are the three ladies doing here?" With the appearance of Ayaka and others, the tragic memories of being ravaged by them when they were young came flooding back. Piccolo felt like he was about to cry, and his heart yelled in anger, "Damn, how did these three demons also come over? There is no point in defeating Son Goku with them in." At this moment, Piccolo felt that winning over Son Goku did not seem to be so important. With these three demons in, his plan was almost impossible to succeed. However, Piccolo would be relieved. He would focus on the goal of revenge on Son Goku. He must be defeated. As for conquering the world or whatever, let it go. "Well, Piccolo, you do not like to see us?" Ayaka raised an eyebrow, smiling. "Damn." Piccolo's heart thumped. He hurriedly adjusted his mood to make his tone as calm as possible and hastily denied, "Why? It's an honor for the three ladies to come and watch my match." Ayaka knew what Piccolo had in mind and did not break it down. She said with a smile, "I know that guy named Krillin, so don't be too hard on him later." Piccolo nodded gently. His eyes caught the smile, only to feel a wave of oppression followed. He was covered in a cold sweat, smiled, and said, "Of course, I will grasp the proportion." Turning his back, Piccolo gasped several times, gritting his teeth. His face was fierce as he yelled in his heart, "Damn, these guys are so scary. I am Piccolo, how can I be afraid? Sooner or later I will surpass them." The game continues, as in the original. Although after 3 years of hard training, the difference between the strength of Krillin and Piccolo was huge. The good thing was that Piccolo was afraid of Ayaka and others and did not make too many tough moves. However, in the end, Krillin still lost after making a variety of tricks. Then it was Yamcha versus Hero. Hero won by a landslide. In the second round, Son Goku vs Tien Shinhan, and didn't take long for Tien Shinhan to be defeated by Son Goku and for Son Goku to point out the weakness of the multiform. Next was Piccolo vs Hero, Old Kami. The original Piccolo and the Old Kami weren't that far apart. However, because the Old Kami was old, he was mentally no match for the young Piccolo. Plus, he couldn't fully play his strength with the help of the human body and eventually lost. At this point, because both sides had eaten the fruit of Tree of Might, the Old Kami's strength was slightly better than Piccolo's due to the huge accumulation. He lost by only one move after using the human body and was not sealed into the bottle and swallowed by Piccolo. Finally, the final was about to take place, Son Goku vs Piccolo. Ayaka sat on top of the martial arts venue with snacks. Her legs swayed, and she watched the match with great interest. The following is the final round of this tournament. Please welcome contestants Son Goku and Ma Jr. to the stage. The host announced with an excited expression, and fierce cheers burst out from the audience. "Goku, you must win!" Krillin shouted. "Go for it, don't die. I don't want to be a little widow without getting married." Chi-Chi put her hand to her mouth in the shape of a trumpet. Son Goku smiled brightly at everyone and walked up to the martial arts stage, and locked eyes with Piccolo. "Humph!" Coldly grunted, Piccolo showed a wicked smile and said in an icy tone, "Son Goku, to tell you the truth, I, Demon King Piccolo, am different from 3 years ago. This time I will definitely take your life." "Ha, Piccolo, we will know who wins and who loses after the fight." It's too early to say big words. Son Goku looked serious. *T. Piccolo bristled and said no more. The two looked at each other from afar, and no one dared to make a rash move. The atmosphere on the martial arts stage was cold to the extreme. Suddenly, two powerful ki such as a million horses rushing to come. The whole venue was suddenly silent, and a tense and moving feeling of oppression was generated. Goo! Krillin's face nervously swallowed a mouthful of saliva, throat a little dry. He said to Yamcha with apprehension, Goku and Piccolo are really too scary. Even the ki makes me start trembling. Yamcha nodded approvingly and watched the duo on the martial arts stage with rapt attention. Whoosh! Son Goku and Piccolo disappeared at the same time, followed by fierce fighting sounds. The ground rocks began to break. This was already a high-level battle. Krillin and other people's eyes constantly turn, but only to capture their shadow. So powerful. Tien Shinhan took a deep breath. His heart was incomparably lost. This was the true strength of Son Goku. Just a few years, he had been left so much behind, and there were two people who felt the same way, Krillin and Yamcha. However, the loss also stirred up their will to fight. The old Kami, who has been detached from the human body, noticed the three unyielding intentions of the three and was very satisfied. He could not help but smile and nod and then turned his gaze to the two who were constantly fighting on the martial arts stage. His eyes were heavy with thought. I didn't know that Piccolo and Goku had surprisingly surpassed me. I hope Goku can beat Piccolo. On the contrary, Goku's several friends are very good, worth training. The Earth had Ayaka, a powerful Kami existence. Piccolo was no longer enough to be feared, and the old Kami's mind was not as tense as in the original. So, he could focus on the training of humans on Earth. The two people on the field, Piccolo and Son Goku, were doing their best, with various strange and bizarre moves. Often within a second, they would fight dozens of times. The rumbling sound of breaking and crashing sounds intersect, like playing music rhythmically. The ground, the air from time to time shining up blinding light, and hidden fists and kicks intertwined. Such as a magnificent visual feast constantly impact the audience's mind. This is simply incredible. The two players are simply more powerful than anyone can imagine. Is this really something that humans can do? The host was shocked by the magnificent battle. His dutiful professional ethics made him approach the arena despite the danger of bringing further commentary to the audience as much as possible. As the shaking and gusting winds slowed, the audience began to get noisy, and the spectators boiled over as they took out their cameras and video recorders to film. Some of those who had watched the previous competitions could not help but compare the battles of several years ago and just feel their blood boiling. Goku's power level is 1727, and Piccolo has 1709. The data alone is a little ahead of Goku, but the gap between the two is not large. Who wins and who loses will depend on their play. Ayaka was pleased. In martial arts, power level only indicates the amount of individual ki. The specific victory or defeat would depend on the play. Experience and intention played a big factor. It is indeed difficult to judge. Launch nodded in agreement. In the ring, the two of them had already executed their own master strokes. In an instant, a huge and incomparable ball of energy appeared between the world, and the blindingly bright light illuminated the entire sky. Squinting at the sun-like energy ball, Ayaka showed a light smile. They are going to give their best. It seems that the winner is about to be decided. It is almost our turn to play. The entire frontier of the martial arts venue was silent. Everyone was shocked by the sudden appearance of two huge balls of energy. What a terrifying energy, they can actually release such a large energy ball. Sweat seeped out from the foreheads of Krillin and the others. The energy density of the two energy balls was much denser than Kamehameha. Unbelievable, it seems that they had reservations before. The old Kami muttered with wide eyes. Wow, what a bright light! Chi-Chi exclaimed with a shocked face. Since the person who cast the energy ball was her future husband, she was unusually giddy. In the eyes of everyone, the two super-large energy balls gradually approaching. Boom! Finally, a loud boom resounded through the sky, piercing pain in the ears, buzzing sound. Like a nuclear bomb explosion, it was as magnificent as the shock wave broke through the clouds, followed by the wind with sand and dust roar swept here. After the sand and wind, everyone seemed to have experienced the end of the world as wretched. Looking at the venue again, they couldn't help but freeze. The wide venue had disappeared, replaced by a bottomless huge pit. From the large pit constantly emitted fiery ki. The soil layer seemed to still carry the crimson color after the high-temperature burn, with light green smoke floating on it. This how shockingly powerful, the host was lying next to the huge crater, and half of his whole body became scorched black. They didn't know that if Ayaka hadn't secretly limited the explosion range of the energy ball, not to mention the martial arts venue, the entire southeastern island would have been erased from the Earth's plate. The old kami was calmly looking at the venue. His eyes were shining, faintly feeling the ki of Son Goku and Piccolo. He lifted his head to the sky. Thousands of meters high in the sky, Son Goku wretched floating up and down, still tugging the exhausted Piccolo by hand. In the duel just now, Son Goku was slightly better. Slowly landing down and throwing Piccolo out of the field, Son Goku effortlessly floated in the air and turned his head to the host and shouted, "Hey, host, the other side has fallen out of the field, declare the result." Oh! The host came back to his senses and hastily raised the microphone to loudly announce, "Ma Jr. fell out of the field, Son Goku player won the championship. This is the second consecutive for Son Goku to get the title. Let us warmly applaud to him to congratulate." Oh! That was what it was all about. As soon as a result was announced, the audience immediately erupted in fierce applause and applause. The scene just now was so amazing that everyone had no objection to Son Goku winning the championship of the World Martial Arts Tournament. "Ha, that's great! Goku, you were fantastic." Krillin laughed and applauded. The defeat of Piccolo had relieved his depressed mood. "Although you are very powerful, but one day I will catch up." Tian Shinhan, on the other hand, calmly looked at Son Goku and launched a challenge. "Ha, worthy of my future husband. He is the great master." Chi-Chi shouted with a big smile, then flew over. At the end of the conference, Son Goku, Master Roshi, Old Kami, and others gathered together while still dragging the exhausted Piccolo. Piccolo had lost the competition and was reluctantly dragged over to the gathering. He was staring fiercely at Son Goku with a ferocious gaze. "Piccolo, don't stare at me like that." Son Goku embarrassed to touch his head, showing an innocent smile. Of course, Piccolo ushered in a cold hum without any change in his gaze. Son Goku barely swallowed a senzu bean, immediately feel powerful. His whole body was healed. Everyone was stunned when he walked to Piccolo's side, handed over a senzu bean. "You take this senzu bean, I look forward to fighting you again next time." "Goku, you fool, how can give the senzu beans to Piccolo?" Son Goku's action startled everyone. Son Goku, who started it all, didn't care and waved his hand in his own mind. "Piccolo is a rare opponent, and I would feel very sorry for him. Hey, Piccolo, you can practice well to become stronger. Of course I will be better than you." Piccolo chewed but also recognized the efficacy of the senzu beans. He chewed and recovered his strength. Piccolo coldly grunted and turned around. He swooped up in the air and said before he left, "What a stupid guy. I'm warning you, this kind of action will only bring you the disaster of killing yourself. Today I will spare your life, but next time I will defeat you and reign over the world." After saying that, he left as a lightning bolt. "Alas, Goku you guy," Krillin shook his head helplessly. Son Goku embarrassed smile, feel tight between the arms. He had been held up by Chi-Chi. Goku, let's have a wedding. Chi-Chi looked at Son Goku expectantly and glued him to death. Son Goku did not understand for a moment, causing Bulma and others had been impatient to speak. You want to hold a wedding? If so, I will help prepare for the wedding. I cannot imagine that Goku is the earliest to start a family among us. It's really surprising. Goku is getting married, how can we be missing it? At this time, Ayaka smilingly came over and greeted everyone. Goku's new room will be prepared by me. Ayaka, so you're here too? Bulma had a surprised look on her face. Actually, Ayaka and the girls came when the martial arts tournament began, but they just never showed up. Chi-Chi explained in a whisper. After a week of preparation, Son Goku was married in the castle of the Ox King in Fire Mountain. As Ayaka had prepared in advance and eventually avoided the lava eruption, the Ox King's castle was preserved intact. On the day of the wedding, Bulma, Master Roshi, Tian Shinhan, and other people came. They had a good time until the early hours of the morning and did not stop. The whole wedding was held with great enthusiasm. The next day, the couple relocated to Mount Paozu. Ayaka had already prepared a luxurious new house there. The new house was a 4-story high hemispherical building. The house was fully equipped inside Ayaka's own house, which was divided into dozens of small rooms. Wow, what a big house. We'll live here from now on. Son Goku looked in amazement. His mouth kept letting out praise. Chi-Chi was also smiling. Great, this is our new home. Oh, as long as you guys are satisfied. This house was carefully selected by me, the decoration inside is very good, and everything is fully equipped. Ayaka said with a smile. Ayaka, this time you can bleed money. This house can't be taken down without a few $100 million on the market. Bulma was a person who knew the goods. As the future helmsman of the Capsule Corporation, Bulma was most familiar with the concept of money. Of course, Bulma was a rich family's daughter. Although a few $100 million was a lot, it did not shock her too much. However, for Master Roshi and the others, it was different. As they were used to living in poverty, when they heard that the price of this house was so high, they could not help but stare and start to calculate their own value with their fingers. The final sad thing was that they found out that their entire property was not even 1/10 of this house. Only Violet looked calm. She was originally a colonel in the Red Ribbon Army. She made a fortune when the Red Ribbon Army was destroyed. She still had a lot of money in her hands after a few years of spending. This is just a small amount of money. Ayaka waved her hand without care. With her current status and pursuit, she would not break her back for a small amount of money. Ayaka's attitude deeply stung Krillin and others, especially Yamcha. When he was a desert bandit, even if he had an outburst of character, how much income he earned a year? He couldn't compare it. After staying at Son Goku's house for a few moments, everyone was ready to say goodbye and leave. When leaving, the old kami spoke seriously to Krillin, Yamcha, Tian Shinhan, Kaiatsu, and other people to send an invitation. After this period of observation of them, the old kami found that these people had a good heart as well as martial artists' indomitable tenacity of faith, and they also qualify to enter the heavenly realm to practice. This good news came so fast that Krillin and the others were a bit confused and asked in disbelief, can we really go to the heavenly realm to practice? Yes, you can go to the heavenly realm if you want. Mr. Popo and I will personally guide you. Just like Goku did back then. The old kami said with a smile. Of course we are willing. Krillin cheered joyfully, then looked excited and grabbed Master Roshi's hand. Master Roshi, I can also go to the heavenly realm to train. I can definitely catch up with Goku. Master Roshi was also excited, his disciple could accept the guidance of the kami, he as a teacher, showed a glow. It was a pity that he was old. Otherwise, he must also go to the heavenly realm with them. Goku, after receiving the same instruction as you plus my efforts, I can definitely surpass you. Tian Shinhan confidently said. Son Goku nodded, then you guys work hard to become stronger in the heavenly realm. I will also double my practice. It's not so easy to surpass me. You guys get ready, follow me to the heavenly realm later. The old kami instructed in a peaceful tone. Krillin and others nodded seriously. They actually had nothing to prepare for. After a short rest, they rushed with the kami to the location of the lookout. Looking at the backs of the people leaving, Bulma said with some reluctance, "Oh, we've only been together for a few days and then we're separated again. What else will they think about besides training? This is a martial artist. Constantly surpassing oneself. Bulma, Yamcha can continue to move forward towards their goals. You should be happy for them." Master Roshi stroked his white beard while lamenting. Bulma helplessly shook his head, said goodbye to Son Goku. "Goku, we will go back first. You and Chi-Chi can live a good life. Don't worry." Son Goku nodded his head. Chi-Chi was happily holding his arm, shaking her hands to send them away. When everyone had left, Ayaka said to the girls, "Goku's wedding is over, you should also leave the Earth to patrol North area for North Kai. Be careful on the way." The girls blandly nodded, and then in Son Goku's surprised eyes, they transient shift away. How they suddenly disappeared. There are actually such magical tricks. Son Goku was astonished. This is instant transmission, learned from the aliens. After Ayaka's explanation, Son Goku soon understood. Knowing that he could not learn without permission, he did not feel discouraged but instead sighed at the wisdom of the aliens. Another few days in Son Goku's house, Ayaka also said goodbye. Coming to the heavenly realm, she found the others were wearing weighted clothes, hard exercise. Their sweat was like rain swished down. Mr. Popo and the old kami stood aside to give them pointers. Saying hello to the group, Ayaka went into her room to dive into training. Time soon passed. Most of the year, Ayaka's strength was steadily improving. When she came to the square, she found Krillin, Kaiotsu, and Yamcha practicing punches and gesticulating, while Tian Shinhan sat in meditation under a large tree, emitting ki. This time down their progress are very big. These people should be the most powerful warriors on the whole earth. Ayaka looked at the four people trying hard to cultivate and said to Mr. Popo and Old Kami. Mr. Popo nodded, "Well, they deserve a lot of recognition for their pursuit. For some time now, they have been doubly hard without a bit of slack, and high enlightenment. I'm afraid it will not take long to be able to surpass Goku." Ayaka showed a smile and shook her head. "It is not certain, Goku is also improving. It is not easy to catch up with him." But soon, she remembered, in the original story, Goku has completely slack in this 5 years. His strength doesn't increase much. If Tian Shinhan has training so hard, he may really catch up with Goku in 5 years. 5 years later, we will enter the Dragon Ball Z chapter when the enemy appears stronger and stronger. This 5-year buffer time cannot simply waste. Ayaka felt she had to do something. At least, she should let the Dragon Ball fighters' strength improve a little. The old Kami's strength grows a lot. Plus Tian Shinhan efforts, 5 years is enough time for them to grow, so don't be in hurry. But Goku and Piccolo's side still need to work a little more. With that thought, Ayaka said hello to the old Kami and went down to the lower realm. Ayaka soon came to West City. She was going to find Bulma's father, Dr. Brief, and ask Dr. Brief to create 2 sets of gravity chambers. The upper limit of the gravity chamber didn't have to be too large. For the time being, 50 times the gravity was enough. Ding! Pressing the doorbell, Bulma ran over and opened the door. When she found Ayaka arriving, she surprised her by ushering her in. Soon, Bulma's mother came over with a drink. "Ah, Miss Ayaka, you haven't been here in years." Ayaka dealt with Bulma's open-minded mother and then explained to Bulma the reason for her visit. "You're trying to create 2 sets of rooms that can change gravity?" Bulma asked in surprise. Yes, 2 sets. The gravity can be adjusted to at least 50 times the normal. These are very important, can you make them as soon as possible? Bulma frowned and considered, if I join hands with Dad, we should be able to, but it will take about a month. After all, we have never made these things before. Ayaka was delighted with such a result. Can you make a line, please? I'll come over in a month to get the stuff. A month later, Ayaka again walked into Bulma's house. Bulma's mother greeted Ayaka and said, Bulma and Brief are doing the final debugging, it will be finished soon. At that moment, the oil-stained Dr. Brief came out and smiled when he saw Ayaka arrive. He said, we just built the gravity chambers, and Bulma is installing the capsule system on them. As expected of a genius father and daughter, the efficiency of the work was fast. Ayaka thanked Dr. Brief gratefully, it's been hard work for you guys. Following Dr. Brief to the backyard, Ayaka saw under a huge shed. There were 2 sets of huge spherical equipment 6 or 7 meters high, and Bulma was lying on the wall of the sphere to install the capsule system. Seeing Ayaka approached, Bulma wiped the sweat and said, Ayaka, you're here, the 2 devices have been completed. She said with a tired face. She pressed the button in the protection tank, and with a poof, a cloud of white smoke rose up. The huge equipment of 7 to 8 meters high was compressed into a small capsule. It's been really hard for you guys. Seeing her tired look, Ayaka was very sorry. She took out a few senzu beans for her to eat. This was the first time Bulma had felt the effects of the senzu beans. Although Ayaka had also given her a few senzu beans before, Bulma had been trying to use them as seeds to grow more senzu beans. The result was that the senzu beans were not grown, and even the seeds were scrapped, so much so that she had never even tasted the taste of senzu beans. I've been watching Goku and the others eat this, and I didn't expect it to work so miraculously. I feel recovered all of a sudden. Too bad the senzu beans cannot be artificially grown, otherwise, it would definitely be a revolution. Nah, can you give me more, so that Dad and I can have more energy to invent more things? Ayaka put away the 2 sets of gravity chamber. She did not refuse Bulma's request and pulled out a small bag of senzu beans from her pocket. She took hundreds of them, handed them to Bulma without counting them, then waved and left. This is a lot. Bulma looked at the bag of senzu beans with a glowing face and counted them one by one. Well, I must hide it. Absolutely can't let Krillin, Yamcha and the others know. When she came to Mount Paozu, Son Goku had already gone to the forest to cut down the trees. It was only Chi-Chi in the villa. Seeing Chi-Chi's slightly bulging belly, Ayaka could not help but secretly sorrow, Goku is quite fast. He's got Kiki pregnant so soon. Sister Ayaka, you haven't been here for a long time. Chi-Chi smiled when she saw Ayaka came to welcome her into the door. She was preparing tea when Ayaka stopped. Now Kiki was pregnant, it would be bad if she bumped into it. Thinking about whether she should let the Ox King shoot a few maids over. Where is Goku? Walked into the house, Ayaka casually poured a glass of water. He went to the mountains to cut trees when he saw that the family ran out of firewood. The villa is fully equipped with everything, why do we need firewood? Ayaka frowned and drank the water in the cup. Because of the financial support of Ayaka, Son Goku and Chi-Chi's life wasn't as straitened as in the original. At least in terms of money, there was no big problem. The living conditions of the houses they live in were also greatly improved. Chi-Chi sighed helplessly, Goku is not used to using electrical appliances. Regardless of bathing and cooking, he likes to burn with firewood. This guy. What a blessed guy who didn't know how to enjoy it. Ayaka shook her head and didn't ask further, then took out the capsule with the gravity chamber from her pocket and put it on the table. Krillin and the others are in the heavenly realm to practice. Goku can't be left behind here. This capsule contains a gravity chamber that can change gravity, which is very helpful to practice. Since starting a family Chi-Chi, he wanted to live a peaceful life. Although it was not enough to raise a family, his life was also uneventful. However, martial arts had become less important. Chi-Chi wanted to say something, but Ayaka waved his hand and spoke first. Chi-Chi, you should understand Goku's personality. It is impossible for him to stop training and settle down, so you have to support him. But the world has been peaceful, Goku is also the world's number one, I think there is no need to train anymore. Chi-Chi said doubtfully. This was not a good idea to change as soon as possible. Ayaka thought secretly. So she thought about it and said in a serious tone, peace? Not so, the world will never be completely peaceful. I have a feeling that a very terrible enemy will definitely appear in the near future, and the level of terror far exceeds our imagination. This enemy may be 1,000 times more powerful than Piccolo. So we have to improve our strength all the time now to deal with the crisis that will appear in the future. Goku and the others will definitely not give up their training, so you might as well relax and let him fight. That's what a wife should do. An enemy even more powerful than Piccolo? Thinking of Ayaka's identity as a kami, what she said was mostly true. Chi-Chi began to ponder, her eyebrows raised slightly wrinkled, and finally sighed in agreement. Well, Goku has his own ideals, I cannot interfere with him. However, he must also think more about the family in the future. Ayaka knew that in the original story, Chi-Chi sacrificed a lot for the family. Her tone could not help but ease down, comforting, don't worry. If there is anything worse in the future, just come to me, and I will give you the decision. At this time, there was a bang sound from the backyard. Son Goku moved the giant tree several meters thick to the door. When he found that Ayaka actually came to the house as a guest, his face showed a sincere smile. Sister, why are you here? I come to see how you live. Not bad. You'll have a child so soon. Ayaka said as she gave Son Goku a white look. Son Goku smiled cheekily and walked to Chi-Chi's side, carefully supporting her. Ayaka nodded slightly, said, Goku, I send you a gravity chamber, you can freely adjust the gravity for training. The use of the equipment are written, and Chi-Chi also agreed to continue your training. Double your efforts in the future. Great, I was worried about how to train. Son Goku nodded his head forcefully. Hearing such a magical thing as the gravity chamber, his eyes had long been shining. As an excellent training enthusiast, he quickly understood the potential role of the gravity chamber. Especially since Ayaka had actually convinced Chi-Chi, it was tantamount to setting the dark cloud over Goku's head aside. Sure enough, it was different when it came from Ayaka's mouth. Goku himself pleaded for so long Kiki did not relent. The moment Ayaka came, she agreed. Things are delivered, I should also go back, goodbye. Ayaka smiled, then flew up and waved goodbye. Son Goku and Chi-Chi looked at the figure of Ayaka left with a happy smile on their faces. High in the air, Ayaka released the sense of thought, sensing the key of the strongest people on Earth, and soon locked the key. In the South Pole Glacier area, Piccolo cloak suspended on top of a glacier with a flash of the body emitting a compelling cold air. Swish! Piccolo opened his eyes. His clear eyes actually flickered with electric arcs, and then he steeply opened his hands. A huge and amazing aura erupted out, forming tens of meters of large key ball with him as the center. The crimson energy ball contains amazing temperatures. The glacier quickly melted, the broken ice and rocks slid down together. Within a short time, a huge spherical fracture zone abruptly appeared between the glaciers. Dissipate the energy, Piccolo gasped and landed on the ice. Looking at the glacier that kept cracking and sinking to the bottom of the sea, Piccolo clenched his teeth. The exposed veins on his head moved one by one, this is not enough. This level cannot exceed them. I have to train more severely. Boom! 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 Piccolo persistently trained. The light in the palm of his hand flashed, a piece of chilling energy continuously gushed out. Swish swish swish. His body moved quickly, and again he used his body to block all the key waves. With a boom, the wind swept up huge waves, and large chunks of ice and seawater were blasted high into the air, then turned into rain falling in droves. Such a hard work, this attitude deserves recognition. Ayaka's voice echoed in the sky. Piccolo raised his head to see the flying Ayaka. His pupils shrunk, and he asked with a cold expression, "What are you doing here?" Ayaka was Earth's new kami, which Piccolo already knew. With such a powerful kami in place, his ambition to conquer the world was no longer achievable, at least on Earth. Ayaka smiled lightly, stroked her hair, and said serenely, "If I say I happen to pass by, do you believe it?" Piccolo skimmed his mouth, very conscious not to say more. Was there such nonsense? Don't look at the girl's harmless look. A crazy 10,000 power level wasn't enough for her to play. Ayaka blinked indifferently and threw out a capsule in her hand. Piccolo took it in his hand, found it was a capsule, and asked, "What is this? You came here just to give this away." "This is a good thing. You should know how to use the capsule, and what it contains can help you train quickly." "Stop, no need to thank me. Just express gratitude in your heart, no need to say it, who makes me like to help people gladly." Ayaka's self-consciousness said. Piccolo was speechless. He was holding the capsule in his hand and said in a flat tone, "The thing has been delivered, you can leave, do not disturb my training." Ayaka momentarily felt bored, so she shook his head and left. "I want to see what is the thing that can help me train." Although he pretended to disdain, Piccolo did not dare to underestimate the things sent by Ayaka. The last time was a random fruit thrown to make his power level greatly increased, and what could it be this time specially sent here? Piccolo found a dry place and threw out the capsule. Boom! After a burst of white smoke, a huge building 7 or 8 meters high appeared on the ground. Gravity chamber. Piccolo looked at the 2 words printed in steel on the door plate and shook his head disdainfully. He walked into the gravity chamber and pressed the 10 button directly without even reading the manual inside. Snap! What's going on, this weight? All of a sudden, it seemed to be tons of heavy things pressed his body. Piccolo was unprepared to be crushed on the ground. His face showed a painful expression. His feet moved as hard as an octopus, and for a moment, he actually did not adapt to it. Ha, good thing. With this, I will be able to soar. Wait for it, Sun and Goku. In the north area starry sky, Ayaka traveled at a fast pace. After sending out the gravity chamber and instructed the lookout matters, Ayaka felt that all the things to do have been completed. She said goodbye to the people in the lookout, left the Earth, and wandered aimlessly in the universe. Planet Cruiser was a clarified blue planet like the sea, which belonged to the high-level planet. The race on it was not a warrior race like the Saiyans, but the individual strength was extremely powerful. The overall strength was no worse than that of planet Vegeta. 300 years ago, an alien ship crashed on the planet Cruiser. The ship was blown to pieces, but the aliens riding on it did not die and stubbornly survived. Many powerful people up there knew about the news of a ship crashing on the planet at first. However, they did not care about it, as they thought it was just an alien in distress, especially when they learned that the other side was just a child. They did not care about it. No one expected that it was the child they let go in his overconfident and arrogant state of mind that would bring them to ruin in the future. The alien child was a Namekian who escaped from the climate change of his home planet and lived on planet Cruiser after surviving a fluke. With the very different changes in his upbringing, the child gradually lost his pure and kind heart and eventually became an evil Namekian. Due to the extremely high martial arts talent, the evil Namekian quickly became powerful and began to cause trouble. By the time the masters of Planet Cruiser became aware of it, the evil Namekian had already grown up. All the masters who went to crush the Namekian were killed without exception. After continuous killing, the planet's top masters finally paid attention to it. After some fierce battles, the evil Namekian was eventually expelled from the Green Vine. However, after a few decades, the Namekian came back. He became even more powerful and evil, killing all the masters of the planet who had crushed him. After the loss of a large number of high-level warriors, the planet cruiser declined and were no longer able to continue their resistance. The Namekian ruled the planet and took the name of Lord Slug. Such a powerful planet with powerful people, but ultimately it couldn't escape the end of slavery. Hundreds of years had passed, and no more masters of tens of thousands of strength had appeared on Planet Cruiser. Even if they did, they were immediately summoned by Slug, and if they did not submit, they were immediately executed. Several hundred years had passed, Slug began to become old, but his strength was more and more powerful, during which he had enslaved more than 100 planets. Slug's greatest wish now was to regain his youth. He recruited a large group of scientists to work for him, developing various drugs that could ease aging and even extend life. The headquarters on top of the high mountain of Planet Cruiser. Slug forcefully put down his wine glass. His eyes mercilessly stared at the research and development staff who kept kneeling below. In such a long time, this is all you have given me? Did I invest so much money just for these useless things? Slug's voice was cold as his dried skin trembled. The research and development staff were trembling to wipe the sweat on his face. His two eyes were terrified and uneasy, and he cautiously spoke, "Lord Slug, it's not that we can't invent drugs to relieve aging. After using a large amount of money, we have been researching day and night and have even worked out a solution to extend life." Oh. Slug's eyes lit up. The corners of his wrinkled eyes widened a lot, and then his expression went cold. His voice was icy, "If you have a plan, why haven't you developed it by now? The program we have fully verified, absolutely feasible. At least 200 years of life extension, just. The research and development staff looked at Slug in fear. Just what? A gulp swallowed, the research and development staff carefully replied, "The drug also requires a special herb, and that herb is said to be available only in the distant Cave of Right. However, the Cave of Right is under the rule of Frisia." Frisia. Slug narrowed his eyes. The cold light in his eyes flashed, and his body could not help but exude a terrifying aura. "Get the hell out of here." The tone of voice was like ice, emitting a chill. The research and development staff suddenly wet their undershirts with cold sweat and poured out of the hall in a frenzy of hands and feet. "Frisia, it's you again. Humph, it seems we have a lot of fights. The 200-year lifespan, for that herb, I have to make a trip no matter what." Touching the deep scar on his left cheek, Slug's voice was low and angry, "The defeat at your hands made me lose a large amount of territory. But now, you must no longer be my opponent. When I regain my youth, the entire north area will be under the rule of Lord Slug. 100 years ago, when Slug was still in his middle age, it was the time to open up the territory. With the expansion of his rule, he finally clashed with Frisia forces nearby, and the two rulers ended up in a battle, which Slug lost and paid a great price. The scar on his left face was left at that time and had been regarded as a shame. Fortunately, at that time, Frisia did not know the matter of Namekian, or the whole planet Namek was to suffer in advance. Time was the most merciless, and 100 years had passed in a hurry. Slug had grown old, although his strength was still improving, his body was no longer as young as it was. Knowing that he could extend his life by 200 years with the materials in the Cave of Right, even if he knew that it was Frisia's sphere of influence, Slug had to go. Not only to extend his life but also to avenge the shame of that year. Moreover, even if it was Frisia's territory of influence, it was not necessary to run into Frisia. "Come on, people." Slug stood up. The 2-meter-tall body had decayed and dried up, but the dried-up body had a surprising amount of energy lurking inside. The guards heard the summons and walked briskly into the hall. "Prepare the spaceship." This lord is going to Cave of Right. Yes. The guards answered, then quickly withdrew and hurriedly prepared the airship. In a short time, the giant spaceship carrying Slug took off from the ground and headed for the distant Cave of Right. Ayaka teleported through the universe several times, each time the span of the teleport was not large. After a few moves, she arrived at a primitive planet covered with plants. The planet was not highly civilized, and the continent was mainly plant-based, with very few carnivorous animals, and those that occasionally appeared were mainly herbivorous. The planet is full of plants. Since there are herbivorous animals, there must be a lot of them. The food chain should be pyramidal, and there will be fewer carnivorous animals. But the result is that carnivorous and herbivorous animals are scarce. It's really odd. Ayaka shook her head between the forest shuttle. The surrounding fragrant and quiet environment made people feel extraordinarily comfortable. After resting for a few moments, Ayaka flew up in the air, shuttled up at speed. In front of a distant lake appeared the artificial civilization base. Alien, could it be that this planet is already occupied? Ayaka thought somewhat strangely, as her body kept approaching the alien base. In the base, a variety of aliens with different appearances wearing special costumes, bringing in a steady stream of plants and then boxing them up for processing. Ayaka stopped to look at the trees, and had a general understanding of the situation in front of her. There are already people using this planet as a planting base, and those aliens are the employees here. Using a primitive planet as a planting base was common in the universe and a relatively good practice. It was much more harmonious and natural than trafficking, immigration or even planet transformation. Seeing that these aliens were quite disciplined, Ayaka was ready to leave. At that moment, the base, beep beep beep, a series of alarms sounded. Warning! Unidentified flying object is approaching and will soon arrive on land. Warning! No system serial number found. The unidentified flying object belongs to the system serial number outside, decided to be non-signature ship, please be ready to meet. The aliens heard the alarm and immediately put down the work in their hands, picked up their weapons and took their positions to prepare for the enemy. Ayaka stopped, looked up out of the sky, and saw a huge spaceship was slowly approaching the ground. Boom! The giant spaceship landed on the ground. At once sinking the land, a few support pillars swish out, like inserting tofu deep into the rock layer. The aliens on the planet, wearing protective suits, lean towards the ship with their weapons. The hatch of the spaceship opened, and rows of heavily armed soldiers came down, then stood up in line and gazed at the spaceship's doors with respectful expressions. At the gate, a 2-meter-tall pale figure walked down the spaceship with incomparable dominance. Ayaka stared at the green figure with dry and wrinkled skin and the two familiar tentacles on his head. Namekian? How did the Namekian appear here? Ayaka wondered about the Namekian who stepped off the ship, and the keen one quickly found something unusual about the other party. This Namekian form looked already winded, but the energy contained in his body was extremely huge. The energy is submerged very deep but still can't hide it from me. Ayaka blinked her eyes. The other side's strength was exposed to her at a glance. 17.1 million. When did the Namekian have this kind of strength? Ayaka did not expect that such an amazing strength existed in the Namekian. She was afraid that his strength was comparable to that of Frisia. Looking at the other side looked like the old Kami, that aged and decrepit appearance, her brain flash. She suddenly remembered the anime version of the appearance of the Super Namekian slug. In the anime version, he escaped from the climate change of the home planet and accidentally found the Earth and learned that the existence of the Dragon Balls on the Earth information. He descended to the Earth and used the Dragon Balls to rejuvenate. He tried to transform the Earth into a planet suitable for the demons but was eventually defeated by Son Goku and others. According to North Kai estimated, the heyday of the slug was more powerful than Frisia. The answer to why Slug, as a lord who could rival Frisia, would descend to this planet, naturally aroused Ayaka's interest. Stop, who are you people? Don't you know that this is the territory of King Frisia? Disobeying King Frisia's orders is a capital offense. The alien held a weapon and warned the soldiers, who kept moving forward. If the opponent was some sporadic armed, they should be scared to death after hearing the mighty name of Lord Frisia. However, the actual situation was not as the aliens thought in their minds. They saw that the soldiers of Slug had a mocking look on their faces and did not take their words to heart at all. It should be known that the leader of the team was the Lord Slug himself. The prestige and terror were not below Frisia, and even in their eyes, Slug was the real overlord of the universe. Not to mention that wherever Frisia was or when he appeared in front of them, there was Lord Slug in front. There was nothing to fear. If it were not for the low profile of Lord Slug, how could it be that Frisia was so famous? Seeing that the other side did not put King Frisia in the eyes in the slightest, the leading alien could not help but become angry, and of course, had a vague hint of bad premonition in his heart. ****, you are provocative to King Frisia. Aren't you afraid that King Frisia will blame you? The wrath of King Frisia is not enough to fill a few lives. The alien raised his neck and roared with agitation. However, the response was the heckling sound of the other side. The alien immediately bulged with veins and a gloomy face. One of the combatants even stepped out from among the ranks and prepared to launch an attack on the strange armed. How dare you be so insensitive? You will have a good time. The leading alien was furious and waved his hand to order all the combatants to swoop forward and purge the strange armed. Seeing the aliens flashing their weapons, Slug soldiers who were already in line drew their weapons and prepared to fight. Even the miscellaneous soldiers dare to make enemies with the elite guards of our Lord Slug. They don't know how to live. The two sides soon engaged in battle, with both the aliens and the Slug soldiers had a power level of 1,000 or more, with the highest reaching 5,000. One side had to fight for the sake of King Frisia's prestige and even more fearful of the punishment that might be incurred if the battle was lost. The other side was desperate to perform well in front of Lord Slug and perhaps be sent out to manage a planet. Both sides used the reason to fight to the best of their ability, so they both wanted to end their opponents as soon as possible. When the battle broke out for a moment, countless scorching lasers and dangerous qigong waves began to run around, wailing and screaming in pain. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Large waves of energy swept away. The raging shock waves stirred up relentlessly. As the battle continued, large forest areas were destroyed, bright lights rose, and the forest was instantly plunged into a sea of fire. Frisia's men and Slug soldiers are at war, but with Slug around, those aliens are dead. Ayaka stood on a tall tree trunk in the distance, looking out at the battle in the distance. Although I do not know why Slug appeared on this planet but encountered, should not we remove it in advance? Slug's evil was without a doubt, and since it was a character that appeared in the anime version, its existence was bound to be in the main story. However, it might not attack the Earth. Although it was a virtue to get rid of violence, Ayaka felt that his virtue index was slightly low, and he needed to make up for it. Slug, who had been watching his subordinates fight, had a chill for no reason. He looked around suspiciously, looking at the whole forest was burning in the fire, and suddenly thought of the life-prolonging side of the herb was in the forest, his face immediately gloomy down. Stop! If you destroy the Lord's medicinal herbs, I will send you all to hell. Slug's voice echoed in the air. The coldness in it was distinctly obvious. Slug's soldiers trembled and only then remembered the purpose of this trip and immediately stopped their hands and feet and returned. However, the aliens on the opposite side saw them retreat and thought they were afraid and chased after them regardless. Insensitive. The corners of Slug's dry and lean mouth moved gently and let out an icy hum. Suffer death. The voice was harsh and cold. Slug stared up in disgust, and his eyes suddenly lit up with a blood-red glow. Suddenly, as if an invisible film flew down to cover everyone, a series of painful shouts were heard. The alien who rushed in front of the horror found his head seemed to be torn by some huge force, and soon the head and body were separated. The alien stopped and scrambled backward, but unfortunately, it was already too late. PFFFFFFFF. In just a few seconds, all the aliens' heads were separated from their bodies. Magic, this is the magic of the Namekian. Slug was using the ability of the Namekian, and the scene was too bloody. The corners of his mouth hung a cold smile. Slug's voice echoed in an old voice, "Search for me carefully, as long as you find the herbs this lord will give the right to rule a planet." To extend the lifespan, Slug could do anything. Hearing this order, all the soldiers' eyes emitted a greedy glow. Then like a jackal, sniffed prey like crazy scattered to look for the life extension of the herbs. The lure of a planet's dominion was enough to drive them crazy. From Slug's order, Ayaka found that the herbs he was looking for seemed very important. Looking at his wrinkled skin, she pondered whether she should immediately go out and destroy this unbelievably evil Namekian. The answer came quickly: kill. So, Ayaka leapt lightly and appeared brightly in front of Slug. Where is the strange woman come from? Slug's eyes narrowed slightly, and the killing intent overwhelming. However, soon, he let out a cry of surprise, and his face instantly became ugly. The person in front of him could hide for so long without being discovered by himself. She was no ordinary person. If the opponent had not taken the initiative to show up, perhaps he would not have been able to find her. Moreover, what shocked him was that the opponent was standing in front of him, but he actually did not feel a trace of ki from her. No. Her ki existed, but that was only equivalent to the power level of only 5 ordinary people. Slug did not immediately consider that Ayaka was a strong person but thought that the woman in front of him was just a girl with magical concealment ability. However, based on that concealment ability alone, which even he could not recognize, Slug had sufficient reason to kill her. Who are you, and what is the purpose of hiding before? Slug looked at Ayaka with a smirk. His dried-up face looked very scary. Ayaka laughed and clapped his hands. Although she did not speak, that flat look made Slug's heart tremble for no reason. Not good. I'm afraid the person in front of me is not simple. With this thought on the brain, even Slug himself felt funny. How could Lord Slug be afraid of a woman? His attitude towards Ayaka was vastly different. Staring at Ayaka, his dry muscles surged up with a jolt. As long as he tested the other side a little more, when the time came, no matter what the result was, he wanted her to be killed in one blow. Slug, am I right? Namekian. Before he could test it, Ayaka was the first to say something that surprised him. Slug narrowed his eyes. You actually know my name. It seems that you are also prepared. In a blur, he felt the blood in his veins unexpectedly speed up uncontrollably. This was a bloodline warning. Since he was an adult, it hadn't been this kind of throbbing for many years. The most recent one was the duel with Frisia. Wrong. I just happened to be passing by this planet and happened to know you as a super Namekian. Although Slug still had doubts inside, his ki had been internalized, and the expression was more serious. As for what the young girl said about the Namekian, he did not feel anything. Since he left planet Namek as a child, he had long forgotten his homeland and had no idea what planet he was from. Slug, you have always wanted to regain your youth, right? It's a pity that you are a combat-type Namekian. Otherwise, you would be able to make Dragon Balls and then summon a divine dragon to fulfill your wish. Looking at his pale appearance, Ayaka shook her head. Speaking without thinking and listening, Slug was instantly subdued. What did this woman say? Namekian, making Dragon Balls, granting wishes? Do other Namekian possess such magical powers? At this point, he thought of his own magic power. Yes, such magical power could never be possessed by ordinary races, so what she said might be true. Suddenly, great darkness erupted from Slug's body. He was greedy and desperate to get that kind of Dragon Ball so that his wish for a long life would no longer be a dream. Seems that you say too much. Well, today is the day you die anyway, it's okay to know this. Hey, I have a bad problem with being too kind. I always let people who are going to die to be cleared and unattached. Of course, since they understand, they have to die completely. After knowing the method of immortality, you have to die immediately. Ain't this the most unfortunate death? What an arrogant fellow. Slug looked at Ayaka with a grim face. His eyes on fire, and his terrifying ki instantly swept out. Nice ki, but you're unlucky to come here at this time today. Slug was really unlucky. If his ship could have come a few minutes later, perhaps Ayaka would have left. However, since she ran into him, she could only say that it was his fate. Whoosh! Ayaka disappeared from before Slug's eyes. Slug glared, a dangerous omen flashed. His body immediately burst back a few hundred meters. The next moment, there was a loud boom. Ayaka appeared in Slug's original position. One of her feet had gone deep into the ground. The tyrannical foot force made the rocks burst open, and the ground seemed to have withstood the impact of hundreds of tons of heavy objects falling straight down from a height of 10,000 meters. The ground was dented, and large cracks appeared around the squeeze. Slug looked at the deep cracks that stretched for thousands of meters, and his heart winced. He then gushed with bloodthirsty anger, and if he hadn't reacted quickly enough, he would have been smashed. Oh, you escaped, but don't worry, there's more. Ayaka leisurely and comfortable to pull out the leg. Her face blandly glanced at Slug, then swish disappeared again. Slug immediately alerted up to look around, and his nerves tensed up violently. He did not dare to underestimate his opponent. He had a feeling that the woman in front of him was the most difficult opponent he had ever encountered, and it was possible that the gutter would turn upside down. However, Ayaka seemed to have completely disappeared. No matter how carefully he looked, he could not find its traces. The blood flow in Slug's body accelerated. This feeling of not being able to control it made him very annoyed. If you can't track me at all, then you're not really a Super Namekian. The strength of a Super Namekian is at least no worse than mine. A voice like a nightmare sounded, and a tremor ran through Slug's heart as a great sense of crisis arose. Not good. Slug's heart screamed in anger. Although the opponent's presence could not be sensed, Slug expected that the opponent must have been within a few meters of himself and could cause harm to himself at any time. In an emergency, Slug released all of his energy. The red-hot ki burned up, and he wanted to use his energy to block the opponent and seize the initiative. However, he thought too much. His power level was less than 20 million, and he wanted to block Ayaka's attack with this amount of energy. Compared to Ayaka's immense ki, it was a tiny handful. The next moment Ayaka appeared in front of Slug. Her beautiful face had a smile on it. She then both palms easily penetrated the burning layer of ki and launched a desperate strike in Slug's incredible eyes. She pierced, flexed her fingers, and made a punch. The two fists hit the chest with a bang. Poof! A mouthful of blood spurted out from Slug's mouth, and his body flew straight backward. With a succession of impacts, he went all the way to the center of the rock formation before being buried by the huge scattered rocks. The messy pile of rocks exploded with a bang, and the smaller ones were directly blown into flying ashes, forming a huge explosion crater in place. Slug stood in the middle of the explosion crater roaring in anger. His eyes were full of blood, his creased and aged face was also covered with bloodstains, and his expression was very horrible. Squeak! The corners of his mouth, devilishly sharp teeth were rubbing against each other, emitting a squeaky, unpleasant sound. His palms were tightly clenched, and his whole fist was trembling due to anger. You dare to attack Lord Slug? You will experience worse than death. Slug hissed angrily, and his endless killing intent exposed. Do you still think you can defeat me? Ayaka wrinkled her nose in displeasure. The bloody murderous aura like hell disgusted her. To form such a rich and dark fury, how many living beings need to be slaughtered? He was really this kind of demonic guy who'd be better to die as soon as possible. Humph, little one, enjoy yourself while you can, and later you will know the horror of Lord Slug. My strongest technique, it's your honor to see it. Your strength has long been exposed in my eyes. How sad. Ayaka shook her head and bristled with disdain. Slug's gaze was fierce, and after wiping away the blood from the corner of his mouth, his arms were wrapped around him, and he began to condense his ki. Ah. With Slug's roar, his head was bruised, and his whole body muscles began to move up. Slug continued to condense his ki, his teeth clenched tightly, and even blood flowed from the corners of his mouth. Incredibly, as Slug vociferously regulated his breath, his body actually expanded little by little. 3 meters. 5 meters. Slug's body continued to become huge until it stopped at about 80 meters. His ki also showed up along with his body, truly reaching 17.1 million. Ha 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 ha. Slug arrogantly laughed. Although he was beaten by Ayaka before, that was only less than half of his own strength. After revealing his full strength, he thought he was already invincible to the world. You are very strong, but now you are definitely not my opponent. Be a good boy and suffer death. Wow. Ayaka widened her eyes at the giant in front of him. The giantization was like a Saiyan. The muscle surge transformation, the weaknesses were also very obvious. The attack speed aside, the eyes and head that were magnified countless times alone would be a good target. In the north area, you actually set up such a big target. On this kind of strength, you will be abused in the evil world. Slug had been basically invincible since he became an adult, rarely encountering opponents. However, he did not know that most of the stunts he thought were invincible had not been tested in actual combat and were like rash in Ayaka's eyes. Slug moved up. Every step he took was accompanied by a shaking of the world. He looked around, intoxicated, with an unobstructed view of the landscape in front of him. Little one, suffer death. The loud voice made the air reel. Slug waved his huge fist with a fierce look on his face. The wind was mixed with a terrifying force whistling, and the huge fist seemed like a large celestial body falling from the sky, domineering and shocking. But... pop! The oversized fist came to a screeching halt, firmly fixed in mid-stride by something. Slug beaded of sweat on his forehead, looking at his fist in disbelief, then horrified to find a pink palm against the fist. It was this small palm that stopped the fist's attack. When he tried to withdraw his fist, he found that he couldn't move his hand halfway no matter what. Slug gritted his teeth and still could not retract his fist with all his might. This, how is it possible? The cold sweat swished down. He quickly came to his senses. His heart was filled with fear. This seemingly evil woman in front of him, the strength was definitely far more than himself. Ayaka disappeared, then quickly upward. She instantly arrived next to Slug's huge head, stopped at the same height as his eyes, and then launched a thunderous attack. In an instant, he struck countless times on Slug's head and finally kicked hard at the brow. Like a drunken Hulk falling eastward and westward, Slug collapsed with a loud bang. In a flash, the giantization lost its effect and changed back to its normal state. Damn it! Slug's head swayed dizzily. His heart erupted with strong resentment and grievances, and his body struggled to get up. No need to get up. Keep lying down. In the air, Ayaka bellowed, then turned her palm down and struck down with force. At this moment, the space seemed to solidify as if, under the propulsion of the palm force, down the hole. The terrifying force, even through the air, made people chill. Boom! Several kilometers in diameter was stamped with a huge handprint. The ground under the handprint loosened and sank hundreds of meters, and the suffocating air dissipated as if space shattered with glittering light. Slug was struck into the ground in that instant. The bones of his whole body seemed to be broken, and the hissing pain reached his brain, which was worse than death. Ayaka landed and felt the faint gasping sound coming from Slug's body, knowing that he was already seriously injured and unable to move. "Please, please, don't. Kill me." The weak voice came. She frowned slightly, thinking of Slug's previous appearance of authority. Ayaka knew to cut the grass to get rid of the root and did not want to let go of this evil Namekian. She threw Slug to the high altitude and then casually sent a ki wave. Under the majestic energy of the ki wave, Slug's body was violently damaged and eroded until it disappeared. On the other side of the cave of Right, Slug's soldiers were searching deep into the hinterland for the medicinal herbs needed by their lord, unaware that their lord had already lost to Ayaka. Deep in the forest, a black-haired boy with a topless body and a chest protector hung in a tree with his eyes blank. With the end of the battle, the black-haired boy suddenly opened his eyes wide. Hissing like a beast slowly came from his throat, emitting tyrannical and ominous ki. His whole body lost its mind and was gradually dominated by the desire to destroy. This dark-haired boy was Broly. Broly's angry, low voice caught the soldiers' attention, making them all come closer towards him. "Be careful. This guy seems to be not simple." A soldier suddenly shouted, and the soldiers behind him quickly finished arming. Roar! Broly clutched his head with a harrowing expression on his face, "Kakarot, Kakarot." The voice was hoarse like a beast hissing. The muscles of the body twitched, and the cruel and tyrannical ki swept away. The terrifying ki and cold chill. Not good. This guy is not something we can deal with. Back off quickly. Sensing the ki emanating from him, a soldier's face changed dramatically and hurriedly shouted. Swish, swish, swish. The soldiers quickly fled from this forest as if they had grown wings. However, they did not know that they had already become Broly's food on a plate. Boom! The figure suddenly flashed, and Broly blocked in front of the soldiers. His arms fiercely trembled and crackled in a series of movements as Slug's soldiers fell down. Poof poof poof. Countless lightning penetrated the air and hit the target. In just a moment, all the soldiers were killed by Broly. Ha 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 Kakarot. Destroy, destroy. Broly's long hair was floating, and his spirit fell into a state of madness. His purple-black pupils were flowing with a bloodthirsty light. After that, he felt huge ki coming from the far side. With several sharp flashes in the air, the body flew towards Ayaka's side. After Ayaka killed Slug, she smoothly shot a piece of ki wave at the giant ship, the ship destroyed. Without the ship, those aliens couldn't leave the place. Suddenly, Ayaka felt that huge ki was approaching. The ki was so powerful that it made people palpitate. How can there be such a powerful ki on this planet? With such confusion in her heart, Ayaka was ready to deal with the ki that was approaching. It gave a feeling of a chaotic riot in its power. Here it comes. She raised her head, saw the light from a distance with breakneck speed. However, the opponent stopped at the high altitude, actually did not take the initiative to close around Ayaka. How arrogant. Ayaka disappeared in place and soon came to an equal height. She hovered in front of the black-haired boy. With a round earring, golden protective piece, and a bare upper body, Ayaka was startled to see the other party's appearance. Broly. Wait, how can Broly appear here? Shouldn't he be with his father at this time? Broly was born on the same day as Son Goku as a Saiyan and had a combat power of 10,000 at birth. Quite a terror. He will react to the voice and breath of Son Goku and will be unusually angry when he sees Son Goku. Due to the normal control of reason will often go berserk. Soon after birth, together with his father, Bogas was expelled by King Vegeta. In Planet Vegeta, the record about them was also erased. Perhaps the inability to control reason was merely one aspect of the 10,000 power level at birth, which did not appear in the history of the Saiyans, so how can King Vegeta be assured? Although he was highly likely to become the strongest Saiyan, this might overturn the existence of the royal family's rule over the Saiyans. How could it be advertised with great fanfare? The good thing was that Broly congenital anomaly, but it gives the Vegeta King an excellent excuse. King Vegeta's concern was not all unfounded. Broly's father Paragus was a guy with unprecedented ambition, and King Vegeta had been aware of. While his son actually had a 10,000 power level at birth, this ambition should also be swollen out. In order to control Broly, Paragus used a special device to restrict him from achieving his own dark ambition. Where is Kakarot? As if he sensed the scent of his kind, Broly gazed at Ayaka. His emotions fluctuated greatly, and seeing that Ayaka did not answer his question, the fluctuations in his body could not help but be mixed up. Why should I tell you? Ayaka asked a rhetorical question. Kakarot, if you do not tell, I will kill you. Broly's cold eyes flashed scarlet electric aura. When he did not get an answer, he gradually lost his mind. His mouth was constantly chanting, Kakarot. Violent and rampant energy burst out, with Broly as the center of the swirling air currents. The legendary Super Saiyan. His strength is extraordinary. No wonder King Vegeta wants to get rid of him. Unfortunately, the surge of energy led to the loss of sanity. If such a terrifying strength is not controlled in time, it will cause great harm. Ayaka was very appreciative of measuring Broly and felt sorry for him. As a legendary Super Saiyan who appeared only one in every 1,000 years, compared to those Super Saiyans who were trained later in life, Broly's qualifications were definitely the most excellent among many Saiyans. It's a pity, Super Saiyan. Even if the legendary Super Saiyan didn't cultivate, his strength would increase year by year. If he cultivated, his growth would exceed that of ordinary Saiyans by a lot. At the same level, the legendary Super Saiyan was much stronger than the acquired Super Saiyan. Seemingly angered by Ayaka, Broly roared. His lean body gradually became larger, and his aura also rose. Soon, his body size grew to about 2 meters 3 meters and was covered by a burning flame within a few feet. Broly muscles tensed with the majestic ki like a wave of anger gushing out. His long black hair turned golden yellow and shot straight up to the clouds. His eyes also turned turquoise and actually became a Super Saiyan state. What a powerful energy. The intense windstorm blowing over, and Ayaka used both arms to block in front of the forehead. Her body swayed in the giant wind like floating weeds in the center and west. Swish! Ayaka gave a strong fling and the wind in front of her body split. She then growled and followed by becoming a Super Saiyan. In the sky, 2 clusters of burning flames shaking opposite each other. The same golden hair color and turquoise eyes. With unrelenting ki like 2 dazzling stars, churning with astonishing energy. Suddenly, the 2 disappeared at the same time and appeared together in the next moment. Ayaka leaf leg force, instantly leaping to Broly. A violent foot force brought up shock waves, and air friction issued a whoosh sound. Bang! Ayaka struck out with a kick, targeting Broly's chest. Although Broly lost most of his reason, the battle consciousness was unprecedentedly strong. Rather, his whole person had been dominated by battle consciousness. In the flash of lightning, he crossed his arms fiercely to offset the heavy blow from one of Ayaka's legs. Boom! Ayaka's attack came to a screeching halt. The force of the recoil sending the body backward a few meters, while Broly was struck down with a single blow and shot down like a cannonball. Rumble! The ground was cracked by the impact. The smoke filled up, and Broly jumped up the moment he hit the ground and came at Ayaka through the thick smoke. At first glance, Broly's strength had already been shown. This guy had pure unprecedented brute force. This was slightly inferior to Ayaka. When she saw Broly coming, she immediately made a decision to dodge Broly's attack by dodging to the side to avoid the impact. The 2 sides tangled up. When he saw that his attacks did not work, Broly became even angrier. The scarlet electric key was mixed in the burning air layer, which looked evil and weird. Not good. Seeing Broly's ki rising again, Ayaka's face changed slightly, and her gaze focused seriously. Broly's age was a few years younger than Ayaka, and he had not gone through as much exercise as Ayaka, but the fight was actually not comparable. If it's not for the fact that Broly did not know how to move with his brute strength, perhaps Ayaka would have been sweating. Ayaka knew that she could not let him improve, so she hurried to strike. The crackling, explosions, and shock waves were generated, and the whole planet was constantly shaking. After an exchange of blows, Ayaka actually had a feeling of being suppressed. It should be known that Ayaka first transformed into a Super Saiyan with a 95 million power level. Then after some training in the demon realm, the strength had doubled again. The strength was absolutely terrifying. Even so, in front of the constantly raging Broly, she surprisingly had a bad feeling. He had just grown up and had this kind of strength. This legendary Super Saiyan was so strong. Ayaka pulled away from a certain distance. Her face was strained as she looked at Broly, and her current condition could at best tie with him. Expanding energy bomb. Broly suddenly flashed. The light in his hand flashed, and the orange energy ball was thrown violently. The tiny energy ball came quickly and suddenly became larger when it was close, expanding to a 10-meter range in diameter. Ayaka gave a startled cry, and her body followed the rapid movement hastily dodged. Turning back subconsciously, she found that Broly had disappeared from sight. She immediately woke up to the fact that the expanding energy bomb was just a decoy, and the real attack was behind it. She calmly floated in the air, watching the surroundings out of the corner of her eye. As expected, a slight fluctuation emerged overhead. Broly's robust body appeared above Ayaka. His hands clasped, and the whole body was immersed in a golden glow. Terrifying high energy diffused between the fists, and a halo of light condensed and sharp, then struck down violently. The speed was so fast that people could not defend themselves. Not good. Her heart cried out. In the face of the powerful attack launched by Broly, Ayaka knew that it was impossible to dodge. She bowed up, bending her arms to resist up. Boom! Broly's heavy blow hit Ayaka. Although a lot of the force was removed by Ayaka's arms, the remaining force was still extremely powerful. The moment it was hit, the energy actually went through her body and regrouped behind her, creating a huge shockwave that went straight down, forming a ring of cyclones around it that was visible to the naked eye. Swish! Ayaka's arms felt pain, and her whole body fell fast. She was about to hit the ground when she stabilized her body and then instantly moved to disappear. Not far from the top of the mountain, Ayaka appeared on a rock, feeling the tingling sensation from her arm. Her face was gloomy down, and her golden flame was like a blazing flame, whirring and flickering. I can't believe Broly is so powerful. Worthy of the legendary Super Saiyan. If it wasn't for the limiter restriction, his strength would probably be even more powerful. Ayaka realized that Broly's strength was more than that, and her heart could not help but envy the legendary Super Saiyan's physique. The legendary Super Saiyan could keep getting stronger even without training. His strength was better than that of Super Saiyans of the same rank. However, remembering that her body wasn't bad either, Ayaka balanced it out again. I shouldn't think too much. This kind of transformation that loses its sanity. In the original story, Son Goku and other Super Saiyans were able to defeat Broly, who is a legendary Super Saiyan. Wouldn't Ayaka, who has more advantages, be able to? The golden hair was glowing, and a smile emerged on Ayaka's pretty face. Her deep turquoise eyes were filled with strong confidence. What a joke, what legendary Super Saiyan, how could this guy Broly stop her from advancing? The legendary Super Saiyan could only become a cornerstone on her road to becoming stronger. Ayaka was enlightened. Her mind was suddenly silent. Her aura suddenly soared, and her burning flame shot straight up to the clouds. Ho 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 ho. Broly looked at Ayaka. The cold light in his eyes flashed, and a low roar came from the throat. Roar! Kill, kill Kakarot. Broly crazy up, and his whole body golden ki expanded out. The sky soon became gloomy and lightless like the end of the world. Knock knock. The planet shook violently, and the riotous energy made the stone out of gravity suspended up. The mountains and rocks collapsed, the ocean waters stirred, violent churning, waves lapping the shore. Huh, destroy it. Broly looked crazy. He laughed wildly and flew up. His chaotic ki seemed to wrap him like armor. He then moved like lightning and instantly flew across to Ayaka. Broly was flickering with light on his fist, and the lightning on it was enough to destroy the world. He struck a blow with the force of 1,000 pounds. Broly, you alone want to destroy me. Seeing Broly attacking her, Ayaka roared. A cold light flashed in her eyes, and she coldly grunted as she stretched out her two palms. Boom! Broly's fist and Ayaka's palm collided, and a blindingly strong wave of energy erupted in an instant. Rumble! The mountains and rocks collapsed, the earth sank steeply, and was turned over in large chunks of soil. Time seemed to stand still, then a huge dazzling light broke through the clouds. The whole planet was instantly illuminated, and the blinding light covered the whole planet with the shock wave. The powerful vibration stopped the rotation of the planet for a time. The riot stopped, and the dust and smoke dispersed. At this time, the ground seemed to have undergone a dramatic change. The continental plates that had become one fell apart, covering the entire continent of green forests also disappeared. The scene reflected in the eyes became a dusky desert. Ayaka stood firm on the ground, her beautiful face covered with sweat and sand. Cough, cough, blocked. With a light cough, the pain plus tingling sensation came from the palm of her hand. Broly's attack was incomparably violent. Although she blocked it, Ayaka felt that her ki was being consumed rapidly, depleting half of it in just a moment. Shaking her head with a bitter smile, Ayaka lamented from the bottom of her heart, my ki was consumed by half so quickly, and the entire continent was wiped out. This kind of battle is too damaging to the planet. Roar Kakarot, tell me where Kakarot is? Broly's eyes showed blood, and his face was hideous and twisted. He was emitting a gloomy and horrible but messy and incomparable aura. The legendary Super Saiyan on this brutal crazy look is really a pity. Her turquoise eyes flickered with cold light, and Ayaka bristled. The light wind was blowing yellow sand, and two golden flames were shaking standing. Broly and Ayaka carefully observed, and the powerful ki impacts each other. Broly threw back his head and roared. The golden ki flames scattered. Tom tom tom. Like the beating sound of the heart, Broly's muscles swelled violently, and his body became taller all of a sudden. Not good. Ayaka subconsciously reacted to see the way Broly's energy kept rising. He was about to break through the restriction limit of the restrictor. I absolutely can't let him release it uncontrollably anymore. Ayaka was fast. Her legs lashed out and instantly flashed in front of Broly. Swish. A piece of green light flashed, and Ayaka's ability was fully opened, releasing a large ki wave. The burning ki wave hissed like a pale dragon coming out of the abyss and roared wildly towards Broly. Rumble. The ki wave struck Broly's body. Did you block it? Damn, the ki wave has no effect. Seeing the state of Broly, Ayaka's face suddenly changed. She didn't expect Broly's flesh to be so strong, and the ki wave actually didn't have the slightest effect. Snap! With a crunching sound, the limiter lost its effect, and Broly's ki began to soar. Ow! Broly floated in the air and began to roar miserably. The muscles of his body swelled open, the turquoise pupils had disappeared, the golden hair color on his head turned into a greenish grass green, and faint electric arcs were flashing on his body. Broly laughed wildly at Ayaka. At this point, he had completely lost his mind, turned into a puppet that only fights. The grass-green hair color without pupils. This is the legendary Super Saiyan form. Ayaka gulped. Her heart was a little panicked. Broly finally broke through the restrictions of the limiter to show the legendary Super Saiyan battle form. The sky was overcast, and a huge pressure enveloped the entire planet. It rumbled as if the thunderstorm came when countless electric thunder fell from the sky and struck the ground. Broly had completely turned into a crazy Super Saiyan state. Although it could not match the second stage of Super Saiyan like in the original, the power was increased at once. The consciousness of destruction dominated Broly. When Broly saw Ayaka, he was immediately attracted by her ki and rushed forward regardless of everything. Damn! Ayaka cursed. She had to be seriously cautious in the face of Broly. Her arms waved as large crescent-shaped ki waves shot out. These ki waves alone could not hurt Broly. She just hoped to stall a little to allow herself to prepare a more powerful move. However, the result was disappointing. The crescent-shaped ki wave failed to attract Broly's attention. He directly ignored the ki wave, allowing it to hit his body, and his body fled violently. The ki wave that hit Broly's body did not have any substantial effect, except for causing a huge sound. It didn't even manage to delay Broly in slightly. Boom! Ayaka's move was interrupted by Broly halfway through the execution. The time-consuming move was no longer possible. Ayaka's cold face instantly moved to the far side and distanced herself from Broly. Broly's eyes white without pupils, and she wondered if this shadow did not affect his vision. He was covered with swollen muscles, which at first glance, was very frightening. There was a roar of anger, and his feet were powered up. Broly shot up only by brute force and looked close to Ayaka. Looking at Broly, Ayaka began to move at high speed. Her turquoise eyes did not have any fluctuations, and her fingers pointed out a series of energy attacks. Finally, when the ball of energy blocked Broly's line of sight, she saw the right moment to launch the instant transmission again. She immediately gathered her energy and released a big move after teleporting to the back of Broly. Sword Wave. With a low roar, she gathered the remaining 50% of her body's ki in her hand and released it in a spiral form. The Sword Wave was the most penetrating and destructive of all her moves, presenting its power. It also consumed a lot of ki when it was released. Just now, it drained Ayaka's remaining ki. Broly was losing his target thunderstorm, and he felt a strong energy wave from the rear. The next moment, the Sword Wave appeared. The Sword Wave shone with blue light, containing half of Ayaka's ki. It was bizarre and terrifying, and it was like a long drill. Even the unconscious Broly subconsciously sensed the danger. The Sword Wave was too fast, and Broly realized that it was no longer possible to avoid it. So he subconsciously put his hands like claws and released energy to resist. Rumble. A huge roar resounded through the sky, accompanied by a blindingly bright light. Then, everything reverted to chaos, and the sky was emptied of gas all at once. Did it work? Suddenly, Ayaka's heart flashed a danger signal, followed by a sharp pain. Then, she was hit by a huge force, and her whole body flew out. Boom boom boom. A series of crashed several mountain peaks, and straight dust rose, leaving a ghostly deep, terrifying impact zone on the ground. Cough cough cough. Ayaka collapsed in the gravel, a few drops of blood flowed out of the corner of her mouth. A stinging pain came from various parts of her body. It's not good, I've broken several bones, I can't continue fighting. She laughed bitterly and got up, and with a bit of sensing, she knew the extent of her injuries. The blonde hair on the head flickered a few times and turned flaxen again, surprisingly exiting the Super Saiyan state. She did not expect that even the shock wave containing all her ki was still unable to defeat Broly. Was the legendary Super Saiyan really that strong? Looking up, Broly appeared in the air. At this time, Broly was also extremely miserable. His hands had been burned and deformed, his whole body was covered with wounds, and he looked awful in blood. The only difference was that Broly still had some ki in his body. So although he could not compare with his heyday, it still maintains the Super Saiyan form. What a fierce man! Ayaka couldn't help but shout in her mind. Ahem, the defeat was not too bad. At least the legendary Super Saiyan was injured like this. Ayaka forced a smile, reassuring herself. Of course, the current Broly was only a dozen years old, less than 20. He certainly hadn't grown up to be so powerful like he was in the later stages. Damn it, I will destroy you. Broly threw back his head and roared, then raised his altitude to fly to a height of 10,000 meters above. Boing boing boing. He frantically gathered his ki and held his hands together. Surprisingly, a black ball of energy converged, and a terrifying and ominous aura was brewing in a concentrated manner. Ayaka was lying on the ground. Her eyes were open when she saw the black ball of energy high in the sky, and she couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. Broly, this madman. Did he want to destroy me and the planet together, would he? To destroy the opponent and destroy the whole planet was something that only a madman would do. Such as Frieza, who was pushed to the end and so on. Who would make such a fuss if they were not pushed to the end? But it just so happens that Broly was such a senseless madman. If the planet is destroyed, how Broly will live by himself? In order to destroy the opponent and even lose themselves, crazy people could not use common sense to speculate. Ayaka swore that she could never die in a fight with a madman. Then, suddenly, Ayaka remembered that Broly seemed to use the energy shield to survive in the universe. In the original story, when King Vegeta wanted to kill Broly's father and son, Broly saved them with the energy shield. Go to hell. Broly laughed madly and struggled to throw the black energy ball down. The black energy ball pierced through the air layer and whistled as it approached the ground. Ayaka gazed at Broly and launched instant transmission. Then, her body disappeared from the ground. Rumble. The black energy ball impacted the ground. The terrifying energy melted the sand and gravel at once and then continued to sink. Click. Black thunder wrapped around the energy ball soon through the planet's crust. The fiery magma with smoke gushed out from the impact port and flowed everywhere. Ka! The entire planet shook. The black energy ball has penetrated the core of the planet. Within minutes the planet would surely be destroyed. Broly's icy cheeks revealed a cruel smile, grass-green hair rushed up to the sky. The legendary Super Saiyans had always been synonymous with destruction, and countless planets had been destroyed by them over countless ages. Any time a legendary Super Saiyan appears, it is a disaster. Broly, the Saiyan bloodline in the universe is already very rare. I did not want to kill you, but your existence will only bring destruction. An icy voice came. Ayaka appeared in the universe. An ice blue light shone at both hands, followed by a crystal longsword with a cold light appeared in his hands. When the divine ice sword in the palm of his hand, Ayaka sensed a cold breath from the depths of the soul. At the same time, the almost dry body surprisingly emerged with incredible energy, that is, the power of the divine ice sword. The unseen eyes and boundary energy passed from the planet Yardart opened at the same time. In the infusion of incredible energy, Ayaka felt the dry body was met with spring rain. There was a different kind of powerful attack on the heart. Although only for a moment, Ayaka immediately returned to a Super Saiyan state. The tip of the sword condensed an ice blue ball of energy. This planet is about to collapse, you also follow the destruction, Broly. A sword chopped down, and an ice blue energy wave contains a huge power like a huge phoenix with wings in a clear sound sweeping towards Broly. Broly looked back, and a trace of shock emerged from the crazy, cruel smile but was quickly swallowed up by the energy wave. Silence. Deadly silence. The entire world stood still, then as a bright, blinding light rose, the whole planet erupted with a violent clang. The first round of shock waves from point to point quickly covered the entire planet. The plates were torn apart, lava splashed, and the cave of Right had become an ocean of magma, soon to be destroyed. After putting the Ice King's sword back into her body, the dizzying pain immediately came up. Ayaka quit the Super Saiyan state and moved to a safe place without caring about Broly's death, lying on a small meteorite. Ahem, the overdraft is too much. Ayaka took out a senzu bean and ate it. Healing the injuries on her body, she calmly recovered for a few breaths and then hurried to escape this star field. A few minutes later, a strong cosmic storm erupted in the star system where the Cave of Right was located. After that, all the spacecraft that passed by this place failed to find the Cave of Right, and only a ring-shaped meteorite belt remained in the orbit of the planet. The whole planet had disappeared. A few days later, the news of the collapse of the planet was heard in the nearby galaxy for unknown reasons. At the same time, the Green Vine people also celebrated globally because of the disappearance of Lord Slug. Whether Broly was dead or not, no one knew anymore. Frisia's spaceship quickly crossed the starry sky with countless stars as the background and headed towards the direction of the Cave of Right. In the ship, Frisia hands loaded on the back of the egg-like hovering command module. His blood-colored eyes were unruffled, staring coldly at the dazzling starlight outside the shield. The Cave of Right was only one of the many planets under Frisia's rule. However, because it only served as a raw material supply planet, it didn't have a high status. Originally, it was a small raw material planet destruction that didn't require Frisia to personally go, but a series of anomalous events in recent years had made Frisia feel uneasy. His position as the king of the universe had been challenged like never before. 3 years ago, news came from the central area. His elder brother King Cooler suffered a mysterious, strong attack, and the Cooler Armor Squadron was wiped out. But, unfortunately, it hadn't been re-established yet, and the opponent also escaped in Cooler's fourth transformation state. This was remarkable. Such a strong person dared to confront the Frozen clan brutally, making Frisia stuck in his throat. How could he feel at ease? At that time, he suspected that the opponent was a Super Saiyan. Thus, he ordered a review of all the Saiyans sent out, making sure to keep track of their dynamics and prevent the emergence of Super Saiyans among them. However, this task didn't go well. Due to the frequent foreign wars, Frisia's men were replaced by several groups. Moreover, with the destruction of planet Vegeta, the Saiyans' archives could not be found. Frisia worried about the remaining Saiyans who knew the truth. Any subordinates who had participated in the task at the time were either killed by him directly or sent to the edge of the war zone. There was actually not a single survivor left today. As for those cosmopolitans responsible for managing Saiyan babies, to ensure the smooth implementation of the plan, they were not given advance notice, and most died with the destruction of planet Vegeta. It really hurts. Although the backup database was pieced together, the information of recent decades is still vacant. Frisia rubbed his temples, regretted for the recklessness of the time. However, the information of recent decades hadn't been built up, so Frisia wasn't particularly worried. Although the number of Saiyans born during this period was large, they basically returned to planet Vegeta after a few years. The few people sent out before the destruction of planet Vegeta did not return. According to the calculation of time, they were almost adults now. First, the number was small. Second, the time was short. Frisia did not believe that they would reach a level that would threaten the Frisia clan. However, it should be known that those who did not return were low-level warriors. Therefore, they wouldn't have accomplished a lot even when they were given much time. However, there was a Saiyan that impressed Frisia, which was Broly. Originally, he wanted to deal with him directly, but Broly's dad was too keen. He actually took him to hide in advance, and even Frisia could not find him for a while. Now, when he thought about it, King Vegeta had spoiled his big event. A few days ago, Frisia's subordinates detected an alarming energy reaction in the Cave of Right. Soon, after the destruction of the Cave of Right, there was news of the disappearance of the nearby ruler, Slug. Slug was able to confront Frisia for many years. So naturally, there was nothing more to say about his strength. Frisia thought he was a match for himself. How could such a strong man say missing? I'm 80% sure Slug has died. Licking his lips, his scarlet eyes narrowed down. Frisia's heart wasn't as calm as it appeared, there was always a chill swirling around his heart, and his face was then clouded with darkness. First, it was Slug disobedience, and then the mysterious strong man who could kill Slug. In his rule of the North area, situations had emerged one after another, which was a challenge to his ruling position. Frisia was still young, he wasn't too old in the Frisia clan, and his strength couldn't compare with his big brother and father. The problem with Cooler and in his ruling area was the sudden emergence of a guy whose strength was suspected to be above him. Whether the information was true or not, Frisia could not rest easy. This time, he heads to investigate the incident of the Cave of Right. King Frisia, in another hour, we will reach our destination. Zarbon came over and reported. Zarbon had long dark green hair tied into a braid with the appearance of a gentleman, but in fact, the heart was very cruel and ruthless. He helped Frisia do a lot of bad things. He and Dodoria were two of Frisia's entourage and second only to the Jinyu forces in the battle under Frisia and had been deeply trusted by Frisia. Frisia raised his hand and waved it a few times, signaling Zarbon to stand down. Then steered the special oval-shaped spaceship back to the observation deck behind the main pilot. Mr. Zarbon, who do you think killed that old man Slug? Frisia asked with a faint smile and an evil air. Zarbon thought for a moment and replied, King Frisia, although the territory of the North area is infinitely vast, I am afraid that the only people who can kill Slug are King Cooler and King Cold. Other than that I cannot think of anyone else. King Cooler and King Cold were stronger and more powerful than Slug, that's for sure, and Zarbon's answer was very smooth and clever not to offend Frisia. Of course, he was clearly talking with his eyes open. Wow, Mr. Zarbon, do you think so? Ha ha ha, I also hope that everything will be under control. However, will that guy who destroyed my big brother's personal Cooler armor squadron 3 years ago reappear? Humph, anyone who threatens my strongest clan will have to die. Frisia laughed loudly, and cold killing intent was floating in his scarlet eyes. Zarbon's laughter was as hearty as a spring breeze. Then, he said to Dodoria next to him, Dodoria, this time Lord Frisia is personally leading, so we can't be left behind when the time comes. Oh, I can't wait to get my hands on it. Dodoria's face grim licking his tongue, clenched his fist and threw it hard. Zarbon and Dodoria body was Frisia's entourage. However, since Frisia had never exerted his full strength in front of them, they were unsure of Frisia's real strength. They only generally understood that the power of King Cooler and King Cold was above Frisia but did not know much about the strength of Slug. However, King Frisia should be more powerful than Slug. Without knowing, the two would never think about how terrifying the strength of the person who killed Slug. With their 30,000 to 40,000 power level, they were just cannon fodder. Time hurriedly passed, and Frisia's ship was getting closer and closer to the solar system where the Cave of Right was located. Beep beep beep. The scouter indicator in the spaceship gave an alert. King Frisia, we have arrived at the orbit of the Cave of Right. The cosmonaut in charge of piloting the ship reported. Frisia nodded blandly and flew to the front of the space cover with the elliptical seat, sweeping his gaze flatly at the large and small meteorite fragments in orbit, which were all the wreckage from the destruction of the Cave of Right. Search with all your might. I want to know everything that happened here. Frisia took one look and didn't want to look anymore. He flew back with a cold aura emanating from his body. The cosmonauts in the ship hurriedly maneuvered their machines to detect the meteorite belt and the surrounding cosmic space. The astounding data shown by the detected cosmic background mapping almost exceeded the upper limit of the large probe. The cosmonaut wiped his sweat and compared the database with trepidation, deeply afraid of making mistakes. Beep 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 beep. The precision instrument emitted a continuous beep. Report to the king, the map will be processed through the time retracing technology and found residual high-energy reactions. But due to the time that has passed, no useful things were found. Expand the scope. Frisia said coldly. The cosmonauts wiped their sweat and faithfully carried out the order. They expanded the range of data sources that needed to be collected for mapping the background of the universe. Suddenly. Report to the king. A very large energy reaction has been found behind a meteorite, and there are definite signs of life activity. Frisia stared up in interest, and a cruel smile flowed from the corners of his eyes. His lips rose slightly, and his icy voice rang out, "Mr. Zarbon, I want you and Mr. Dodoria to go ahead and detect it. Guarantee a successful completion." Dodoria responded loudly with a fist pump. The hatch opened, he and Zarbon flew out of the spaceship together. It didn't take long for Zarbon and Dodoria to return with a green sphere floating behind them. Frisia looked at the green sphere. His eyes narrowed, and he waved his hand to hit a piece of energy over. The green sphere accepted the energy hit by Frisia and began to move up, slowly revealing an old and dry face. "Mr. Slug, it's really fate. I never thought we would meet in this occasion." Frisia's cold voice came. Only half of Slug's body remained. He slowly woke up and opened his eyes to see Frisia. His pale old face could not help but show a look of panic. "Frisia, don't kill me. As long as you don't kill me, I'm willing to tell you an amazing secret. You will definitely be interested." "Oh, what kind of secret is it?" Frisia asked with a smirk. What could be more exciting to him than having his initial opponent fall into his hands? "I'll tell you as long as you promise not to kill me. This news I also learned by accident, it is about immortality." Slug knew that in the hands of Frisia, the hope of survival was extremely slim, but he was not willing to die. Sure enough, upon hearing the news about immortality, Frisia's face immediately changed. His suffocating aura of terror erupted out, piercing soul eyes stared straight at Slug. "Say it. As long as it satisfies me, this king does not mind to let you go. Not long ago I just learned that there is something called Dragon Balls in this world. It is said that as long as you get the Dragon Balls you can achieve any wish, immortality is not a problem." Slug only learned about the Dragon Balls partially from the mouth of Ayaka. However, in order to save his life, he made up his mind and became a connoisseur of the Dragon Balls all of a sudden, selling the Dragon Balls to Frisia in a big way. In fact, Shinran could not violate the rules of the universe because it could resurrect people who died accidentally. It could slow down the aging process and thus extend the lifespan, but Shinran could not disobey the rules and could not make people who had died naturally resurrected again. It could slow down the aging process but could not let people live forever without limit. However, Frisia didn't know that. After learning the news of the Dragon Ball, Frisia laughed wickedly, and the ambition that was not small was even more inflated. What else was more attractive than immortality? If he got immortality, wouldn't the future of the Frisia clan depend on himself? So, there is such a thing in the world. "Thank you so much, Mr. Slug, but one person is enough to be entitled to the Dragon Balls, so you can go on your way in peace." Frisia laughed wildly. The palm of his hand gathered concentrated energy. Slug's face changed dramatically. He moved his body frantically, but he was already locked by Frisia and could not escape. "Frisia, how dare you go back on your word? Sooner or later you will also encounter her. With her, your Frisia clan is doomed to extinction." Slug shouted madly. The battle between Ayaka and Broly really made Slug realize that there were people outside of the world. Frisia's face was cold, sneering and throwing out energy. This energy quickly wrapped around Slug's mutilated body and sent him deep into the universe with a destructive explosion. "Huh, your strength is no match for her. You will surely be destroyed." Slug, who was in searing energy, slowly dissolved and finally completely disappeared. Frisia's eyes were cold and disdainful. Cut A with a cruel smile on his face, "Mr. Zarbon, pass down the order. Don't leak the news of the secret search for the Dragon Balls to the public, especially my big brother and father there." After Zarbon and Dodoria responded, Frisia excitedly looked out of the cabin of the spaceship and inflated ambition. However, among Frisia's subordinates, except for Vegeta and Nappa, who were fortunate enough to learn about planet Namek, no one else had any idea, let alone the news of the Dragon Balls. For Frisia, at most, there was an empty joy. Frisia was doomed to empty joy. Later, even after several years of exploration, he did not see the shadow of the Dragon Balls, which made Frisia thunderstruck and had to wonder if Slug was intentionally lying to him. On the other hand, in the Cave of Right, Ayaka had left before the collapse of the planet appeared on a planet formed by ice. When she arrived at the planet, Ayaka was caught off guard by the bone-chilling cold air on the icy planet that turned her face blue. However, she quickly held on and began to practice sitting in the icy snow. Through the battle with Broly, Ayaka felt that her strength was still insufficient. The joy of transforming into a Super Saiyan unconsciously faded away, knowing that she was still 4 years older than Broly. Broly was just under 19 years old and left her in such a mess, so what was there to be proud of? After she calmed down and analyzed her own shortcomings, her recovery and explosive power in the Super Saiyan were among the best, but the energy accumulation was far less than Broly. In the same transformed state, the legendary Super Saiyan's lasting combat ability far exceeds hers, which was the problem of energy accumulation in the body. Although the Senzu beans could make the crippled body instantly recovered, which was an extraordinary efficacy and had been called an elixir, the only energy had to rely on their accumulation. The Senzu beans could only repair the body and restore physical strength, but the recovery of ki did not play a big role. It should be known that the energy contained in the body of the late Super Saiyan alone was definitely more than the total sum of a planet. The amount of ki supplemented by the Senzu beans was simply a drop in the bucket. This time, I can only polish the body, so that the body stores more ki. Ayaka secretly thought it would be better to raise the storage content of ki to the legendary Super Saiyan level. In fact, this was to enhance her Super Saiyan realm. It was the same one-fold transformation. The Super Saiyan state had a very wide margin before arriving at Super Saiyan 2, and individual differences determined that the same Super Saiyan 1, but different people or the same person at different times, there was a cloud of difference. Ayaka was ready to develop his Super Saiyan 1 state properly. Sitting on top of the cold ice and turning the boundary energy on, her body was like a huge vortex slowly absorbing the energy in the universe and even on the cold ice planet. At first, it was slow, but then the vortex became bigger, and countless energies poured in. She first replenished the missing ki in her body with the absorbed energy and then used it to polish her body and expand her muscles and cells. The energy was not visible to the naked eye, but then it came from the free state and then clung to the skin on the surface of the body. Because the flesh had absorbed sufficient energy, most of the energy that came over dissipated after condensing on the surface, and only a small amount of subtle energy continued to enter the cells. Combined with the mysterious power within Ayaka's peculiar physique, she began to expand her base little by little. However, the whole process was exceptionally slow. If she hadn't tried it so much today, she would hardly have been able to discover that there was actually such an effect after the combination of the two powers. Half a year passed quickly. Ayaka stopped on the cold planet to expand the body base. When she was hungry, she ate a senzu bean. Because the energy bound had been turned on every moment to absorb free energy, she did not feel hungry, and the consumption of senzu bean was not much. Whenever Ayaka absorbs energy, a large amount of energy flows out, dripping through the stone. Day after day, the surroundings under Ayaka gradually washed out by the free energy more than 10 meters in diameter. Swish! With a huge spurt of energy, Ayaka opened her eyes and stood up. She was shocked to find that the area she was sitting in had formed a huge ring-shaped circle. Feeling the ki contained within her body, her power level seemed to have risen only a little. However, it seemed that the same move could use slightly less ki, and the power would actually remain the same. Although she wasn't as terrifying as the legendary Super Saiyan, she could definitely rank among the top Super Saiyans of all time in terms of sustained combat. There were not many Super Saiyans in total. Swish! With a slight thought of movement, Ayaka was instantly wrapped in golden light around her body. Her long golden hair fluttering in the wind and unexpectedly turned into a Super Saiyan state. The terrifyingly powerful aura swept the entire cold ice planet. Click click click. The ice layer between the plates cracked and soon formed countless deep and terrifying fractures. Well, the improvement is still quite big. This is equivalent to the flesh transformation, so that you have the confidence to fight with the legendary Super Saiyan. The turquoise eyes showed a luster of satisfaction. She withdrew her energy to exit the Super Saiyan state, and the cold ice planet returned to its previous calm. Just when Ayaka was planning to leave. A click, not far from an ice layer cracked, a milky white sphere rolled down. Ayaka looked stunned. How could there be a snowball here? She was surprised and flew over towards the milky white sphere. She was amazed to find that the so-called snowball was actually a Saiyan spaceship used to travel the universe. This kind of spaceship had several sizes. Adult Saiyans use a slightly larger spaceship, and this milky white small spaceship should escort young Saiyans. Could there be Saiyan toddlers here? Was it sealed into the glacier? Ayaka stopped in front of the spaceship, then tapped on the hatch a few times and opened the hatch. A small nurturing pod rolled out. The nurturing fluid inside the pod had dried up, and a naked toddler was lying coldly inside, without a trace of life. Ayaka gently picked the toddler up, and it turned out to be a girl about 2 years old in size. I guess she's not dead yet. Thinking this, she tried to infuse kin into the girl. Soon after, the girl's body temperature slowly warmed up, and she began to breathe faintly. Ayaka somewhat felt hurt to hold the little girl. Looking at the little girl's naked lower body on the furry tail, she could not help but think, she should be at least 18 years of being frozen. I wonder if she is a child who was dispatched out before or later escaped out. No matter what, it is really her luck to meet me. It was also fortunate that she met her, otherwise, this child's future would be unpredictable. She was one of the few remaining purebred Saiyans, and Ayaka certainly couldn't let her die easily. She carefully wrapped the child with ki to protect it from the invasion of cold air and then launched an instant transmission to a planet suitable for life. With its beautiful scenery and rich real estate, planet Bodhi was one of the major planets ruled by Slug. After a short wait, his subordinate finally broke apart after the news of Slug's death. They each took control of a planet that belonged to Slug, and they became kings. Planet Bodhi now was the territory of Slug's former subordinate, Castro. Although Castro's strength wasn't strong, he used to take care of Planet Bodhi, so the indigenous people there didn't resist much after he occupied Planet Bodhi. In a medium-sized township, a young and beautiful girl came to town one day, and she was carrying a child in her arms. The villagers quickly classified the girl as a young mother who had lost her life at a young age and looked at the girl with eyes full of regret. Ayaka endured the strange looks handed around, bitterly smiled and purchased a few sets of clothes worn by young children, and then quickly disappeared. She came to the town's remote halfway up the hill, cast their luxury villa in the open space near the creek, and then walked in with the child. At this point, the Saiyan toddler woke up. Her bright eyes twinkled and stared at Ayaka as if she was very interested in her. Ayaka smiled and touched the girl's head. Click. Ayaka's smile froze, the girl actually bit on her arm. However, Ayaka's arm was so tough that the girl could not bite through the skin even if she whimpered and tore. Ayaka's eyebrows raised, and she snapped a knock on the girl's head, causing the girl to whimper and twitch, leaving tears in the corners of her eyes. I seem to have picked up a big trouble. Ayaka thought helplessly. Little one, for the sake of the Saiyan, I adopted you. Don't be too naughty in the future. Well, you seem to be 2 years old, I'll give you a name. From now on you will be called Raimu. Ayaka raised the girl high. The little Raimu stared with big round eyes and laughed unknowingly. The furry tail underneath hung down and swung. In the windy afternoon, Raimu was calmly sitting in front of the house on the hitting stake, smiling at a small figure not far away that was jumping down and being very active. On the vacant lot, little Raimu wearing a small vest punching a board. The little bun face became red due to exercise, but she still completed each action seriously. These were the tasks that Ayaka had assigned to her every day, not a lot but a good exercise. So far, Ayaka and little Raimu had been living here for about 2 years, and little Raimu was close to 4 years old. Under the arrangement of Ayaka, who was a master, little Raimu was growing strong. Although Ayaka landed on this planet because of Raimu to live a secluded life, Ayaka also did not leave the practice behind. The weight-bearing clothes load was opened to the maximum by her, and every moment her body was under great pressure. When her strength reaches this level, the normal weight-bearing was actually not very useful, but the good thing was that Ayaka's weight-bearing clothes were transformed by Shinran and were able to deepen into every cell of her body. Her strength was steadily advancing, and Ayaka put her mind on little Raimu. Ayaka had so many divine things in her hands, such as senzu beans, tree of might fruit which was not a rare treasure, coupled with Ayaka personally instructed, little Raimu's training environment was superior. However, Ayaka didn't want to pull up the seedlings and overly harsh on Raimu. So, for the time being, she didn't use any of the senzu beans and tree of might fruit but only gradually honed Raimu to lay a solid foundation. Ho 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 ho. Little Raimu finished today's task with a red face. She dried the beads of sweat on her face with her hands and ran happily towards Ayaka. Alma, I finished today's task. She said with a remarkable look at Ayaka, showing a hopeful gaze, just as close to saying, praise me quickly, and so on. Little Raimu is great. Your martial arts are getting better and better. You'll be a great martial artist in the future. As expected, Raimu beamed with smiles. Ayaka smiled and stroked her little head. Raimu squinted her eyes with a comfortable look on her face and let out a soft mmm sound from her mouth. The first time little Raimu called her mother, Ayaka was quite resistant. She was only 23 or 24. How could she have such a daughter? But over time, she got used to it, so she acquiesced to the name. Later, at some point, Raimu would no longer call her mother but called her Mama. Mama was a title that Ayaka felt less comfortable listening to. In a previous life, Ayaka had read a story called Toho Project, in which the mother could move her to the point of being in a trance. Coupled with the harmonization of Raimu's name, Ayaka felt some trance. Nah, Mama, I want a reward. Little Raimu took a step back and raised her head. Her dark eyes were gurgling. Oh, then what Raimu want? I will not give you a reward if you go too far. Not too much. I just want the statue that Mama got a while ago. Little Raimu said with a smile on her face. Statue? What do you need a statue for? Sculpture is not something children understand. Raimu looked at Ayaka with a light smile. The statue was a recent mountain scavenger hunt. She saw it as beautiful and wanted it back. I want the statue. Little Raimu said unyieldingly, pouting. Okay. I'll get it for you. It's not precious, but don't break it. Ayaka went into the house and took out a statue. Raimu got the statue after 3 times a toss, directly keyed off the sculpture of a green bean-sized gem and then carefully put it away. The statue was actually thrown away directly after. Ayaka looked dumbfounded. She grabbed Raimu's ears and said, "I told you to cherish it, why did you just get it and tear it down? People just want small gems, those stone lumps are not worth anything. It's ugly." Little Raimu's eyes were glowing at the green bean-sized gems in her hand, and she said with a disdainful face, "This." Ayaka was at a loss for words, looking at Raimu's toddler back and muttering, "Red and white, this is not scientific. Could it be that such a name as Raimu has been able to penetrate the dimension and is contagious? Raimu Hakurii, you hanged the sky. No. If this continues, Raimu will become the same as the feckless witch. It is important to start education from a young age. In order to curb Raimu's future fecklessness, I must start education from an early age." Imagining Raimu in a bully witch costume all day to fall out of modesty, Ayaka shuddered. She hurriedly grabbed Ayam for profound education. If one day she becomes a shrine maiden, that would be a big deal. Day by day, in addition to teaching Raimu martial arts training every day, Ayaka also taught her temperance education. The results of her education were mixed. Raimu's martial arts had been slowly growing, but her temperament was declining. Ayaka was worried, thinking that if this continued, Raimu would really become a shrine maiden, which could make Ayaka anxious. "Raimu, where did the rubies in my drawer go?" Ayaka yelled in exasperation. "Mama, I took the amethysts from the bottom drawer, not the rubies." Raimu blinked innocently. Raimu choked for a moment and pulled open the bottom drawer, and sure enough, there was an amethyst missing. "Ayaka, your property will be left to me in the future anyway, so isn't it the same if you take it early or late?" Raimu asked in disbelief. Instantly, Ayaka's face darkened. "Oh, I don't blame you. I shouldn't name you Raimu," Ayaka murmured. The more she said, the more anger finally gnashing her teeth. Knock knock knock. A series of knocking sounds came from the door. When she opened the door, she saw a 2-meter-tall thin young man standing outside the house. "Lord Ayaka." The lean youth said respectfully when he saw Ayaka. "Castro, what do you want here?" Ayaka asked in a bland tone. This lean youth was none other than Castro, the explicit ruler of planet Bodhi. Castro had 40,000 power level, and such strength was more than enough to rule a planet. However, at this moment, Castro bowed to Ayaka respectfully and willingly. More than 2 years ago, due to the news of Slug's inexplicable disappearance and confirmed death, resulting in the disintegration of the forces under him, Castro moved quickly to take over planet Bodhi. In the past 2 years, the way Slug ruled the field could be described as a storm. All kinds of strong people showed their skills, coupled with the continuous erosion of Frisia forces. Now nearly 70% of the territory had been swallowed up. The reason was that these dozens of planets had long been secretly under the jurisdiction of Ayaka, so Castro was now only her subordinates. Under Ayaka's jurisdiction, she had gathered a large number of cosmonauts and scientists. In order to facilitate the management, Ayaka specially formulated a harsh law, benefiting from the promulgation of this law. As a result, dozens of planets under Ayaka's jurisdiction finally ended the ongoing war to live a stable life. Those who relied on a little strength to continue to do harm to the strong were all cleansed, and then Ayaka recruited a large number of people with power level of more than 1,000. There were 10,000 strong people to form a patrol squad to protect the rights of the territory. It wasn't that she wasn't willing to recruit more than 10,000 strong people, but such strong people were too few, and most of them were disposed of in the purge. In addition, with Ayaka's consent, each planet had its own security team, even when the power level was generally below 1,000. Lord Ayaka, news recently came that Cooler in the north is seriously injured. Cooler is seriously injured. Is this news accurate? Ayaka asked in amazement, knowing that Cooler's strength was extremely terrifying and could be said to be number 2 in the north area, ranking only after King Cold. Would such a person be seriously injured easily? She didn't think Cooler's father would do that to him. I have sent someone to investigate in detail. Cooler is indeed seriously injured. Both King Cold in the east and the nearby Frisia have sent their men to support them. Ayaka raised an eyebrow, secretly thinking up. There should be no strong person who could seriously injure Cooler in the north area. Could it be that it wasn't someone from the north area? Castro watched Ayaka carefully, not daring to be careless. Although Ayaka was a woman and seemingly nothing, he knew that she was, after all, a terrifying strong person who could easily kill Slug. Even Cooler and King Cold were not her opponents. Castro did not dare to anger her. There is information that the opponent is two women. The strength of both very terrifying. However, the strange thing is that the last one who fought with Cooler is only one, and no one knows where the other one went. Ayaka listened, and the corners of her eyes could not help but float a smile, a brilliant smile as if lilies bloom. Oh, I see, you don't have to worry about this. I'll take care of it. When Castro heard this, he sighed in relief, and the pressure pressing on his chest disappeared. The ones who seriously injured Cooler should be the girls. After learning that there were two people who seriously injured Cooler, Ayaka had a guess, especially when she knew that only one person fought in the end. She was more certain. When they first left the demon realm 3 years ago, the girls had a strength of nearly 10 million. A few years later, they should have made great progress, and combined with Castro's report, Ayaka was sure that when they fought with Cooler, they should have used a fusion technique. With their extraordinary individual strength to cast a fusion technique, it was very likely that they seriously injured Cooler. Ayaka felt relieved from the bottom of her heart that the unbeatable Cooler would be seriously injured. What happened to Cooler must have made Frisia clan panicked. Their dominance for many years was truly threatened, and King Cold is now afraid that he cannot sleep at night. Ayaka had a faint smile on her face. Castro considered, hesitated for a moment and said his suggestion, Lord Ayaka, since Cooler is seriously injured, then why don't you go out and destroy the forces controlled by Cooler in one fell swoop with a strike of thunder? So that those unsettled guys can have a good look and deter some. This suggestion seemed good. Castro's proposal made Ayaka a little bit moved and quietly thought about it slowly. The destruction of Cooler was naturally very simple for her now, but the management of the territory after taking over was a bit of a problem. Currently, it was very troublesome to rule only the dozens of planets left by Slug. The ambitious people from various kinds who tried to take her territory had already made her uncomfortable. If she took over the huge territory of Cooler, she would be exhausted. Castro could see that Ayaka was hesitant. After a moment's thought, he understood that she was definitely not concerned about Cooler but was unwilling to take over a super territory that was in unbelievable chaos. My lord, if you are willing to take over the territory of Cooler, there is no need to worry about the management. You can copy the current model of management, and I think those who resist will go down immediately as long as you deter them a little and directly scare them with your absolute strength. When you're strong enough, there will be no explicit rebels. Ayaka nodded. As long as there were no open rebels, she didn't want to care about those in the dark. As long as they did not face opposition, she wouldn't bother to take care of them. What was the purpose of having so many people like Castro on hand? These little things should be left to them. Ayaka's idea of leaving everything alone was very wise. It wasn't a king's way of life to do everything herself. She also thought that if she took over the entire northern area, the Frisia clan would certainly be a deterrent, and North Kai would be happy about it. There was something about constructing a peaceful, righteous territory that would be enjoyed by all the universe. Perhaps in the future, people would have to call her Your Majesty or Queen. At that time, little Raimu would be a princess. The more Ayaka thought about it, the more she felt that there was a lot of potentials. Castro watched Ayaka's expression, and when he saw a smile appear on her face, Castro's heart suddenly heated up. He could not restrain the excitement in his heart. If the big boss in front of him was willing to take over that huge territory, wouldn't his status rise along with it? He never thought his big boss would be afraid of the Frisia clan. In his heart, he was worried that the Frisia clan would not be enough for Ayaka to play with. And so it was. Castro was lucky to have never seen the horror of the Frisia clan. Although he had heard its name for a long time, he did not have a substantial impression. However, he saw with his eyes how powerful Ayaka was, so in his heart, he thought that Ayaka was stronger than the Frisia clan. The reason why he said he was lucky was because Ayaka was indeed more powerful than the Frisia clan, and he followed a good master with great strength. Castro. Ayaka called out lightly. Now that she was sure to take over Cooler's territory. She got serious as a whole and spoke with majesty. Yes. You go and arrange the personnel to prepare to take over the territory ruled by Cooler. Yes. Castro loudly answered excitedly. He didn't dare to hesitate and hurriedly ran back to arrange the personnel. Nah, Mama, are you going somewhere again? Little Raimu pulled the corner of Ayaka's coat. In the past 2 years, to quell the rebellion of the nearby planets, Ayaka always leaves every now and then for a while, to which little Raimu had already gotten used. Slowly, in her consciousness formed the concept, there were many valuable treasures on the planet. Because the planet was theirs, all the wealth on it was also theirs. Every time Ayaka went out, she always got a big territory, and their family's assets were always rising. So, the more times Ayaka went out, the richer the family became. It looks like Mama is going to go out again. Does that mean she could get a lot of money again? Little Raimu thought with some intoxication. Seeing Raimu's eyes gradually sparkling little stars, Ayaka knew without thinking what the child was thinking in her head again. So, she helplessly looked up at the sky. Mama is going to be away for a while, so take care of yourself. Yes. Little Raimu nodded vigorously and continued, Ma is also going to bring back many valuable things. When Ayaka heard this, her face darkened, and she almost fell on her heels, wobbling and disappearing from her spot. Northern region of the North area. A few weeks ago, the sudden intrusion of 2 mysterious women that seemed like a meteorite hit the ground at once stirred up shocking waves here. Their most powerful and terrifying King Cooler was seriously injured. Such an impossible thing to think about had happened. Now the northern region could be described as grass. The wind was cranky, and wherever a large number of people were arranged to carry out uninterrupted inspections. Because Cooler seriously injured, the northern region was like a muddy lake becomes ripples. Those who couldn't resist ambition had surfaced and wanted to take advantage of the opportunity to divide a hand. These guys usually hide in the depths. When there is movement, they open their bloody mouths like sharks that smell blood. However, the Frisia clan quickly reacted. King Cold and Frisia sent their men to the northern region to support Cooler. Those ambitious people who wanted to take profits were caught off guard and were naturally cleaned up severely. So stability was restored to the northern region. However, because of the existence of the mysterious, strong person who injured Cooler, it was basically impossible to return to the way it used to be. So, as long as the opponent hadn't been eliminated, King Cold and others would be the same as Cooler. The existence of the mysterious, strong person was like the sword of Damocles hanging over their heads, making them stuck in their throats. From a few days ago, the planet had been in the highest state of alert. Even the air was tinged with the smell of slaughter, and a team of men and horses kept patrolling. There was no single expression on their tense faces, and there was an image of a grassroots army. Swish! A human figure appeared in the open space. Ayaka appeared on the ruling planet of the territory of Cooler. The northern region was ruled by Cooler, and there were tens of thousands of planets under its jurisdiction. So, in order to facilitate the ruling of so many planets, there were administrative planets, ruling planets, and other institutions for a hierarchical rule. The headquarters of Cooler was the highest status planet, and Cooler was stationed here all year round. Ayaka appeared on the ruling planet with a swagger, quickly attracting the attention of patrolling cosmonauts. Then a team of cosmonauts swarmed over and shouted at her, "Stop, who are you?" Smiling like a spring breeze, Ayaka paid no attention to them and disappeared with an instantaneous shift. Looking at the place where she disappeared, the cosmopolitan's heart chilled. They suddenly remembered the mysterious woman who defeated King Cooler a few weeks ago. Could it be that the mysterious person who defeated King Cooler is here again? The cold sweat immediately emerged, and they sent out a signal in panic, making the whole ruling planet shook for a while.